What's up, Paranetters, Wizards, and White Council members? How is everybody doing? Welcome back to the Fantasy Files podcast. We are your co-hosts, Spencer and Gabe.
And hello from me, RJ Bailey.
No, RJ, you are not in this episode. Go away, please.
Bullshit.
I know. But today we are going to be talking about Ghost Story, the 10th, 11th book in the Dresden? 13th. Okay, I was not close.
Lucky 13.
Yeah. The 13th book in the Dresden Files series. We've been doing a read along, which is basically spoilers for this book and everything before it, but nothing ahead of us will be spoiled. We won't be spoiling anything from like Cold Days, Skin Game, all that stuff. So if you're new to the series and you're making your way through it for the first time, you don't have to worry. You're all good here. But yeah, we got Jake Bishop. Jake, don't skip live ship Bishop over
C'est
here.
moi.
He's got a great YouTube channel where he talks about like Dresden Files theories and makes a bunch of other videos on other fantasy books. So go check that out if you're into the booktube kind of stuff. And then we have V from Caffeinated Covers, who also does Dresden Files theories and also talks about books that she loves. So both great booktubers if you would like more content on that kind of stuff. And yeah, we're just going to hang out and talk Dresden Files. We've all been kind of looking forward to this one because I think that we all have like varying degrees of
There's definitely a 50-50 split, it seems like.
Yeah, like some of us like
Coming
Ghost
closer
Story.
to 75-25.
I know. But yeah, we all have differing opinions on Ghost Story. We love all of the Dresden Files books, but some are clearly better than others. Let's be real. So before we go ahead, you can reach out to us on Twitter and Discord and Patreon, all of which are linked down in the description, or you can leave us a comment on the video and just say hi. We love talking to you guys. And if you do go support us over on Patreon, we put up exclusive content over there where Gabe and I kind of dick around and play games and do like off-topic discussions and stuff. So if you just want to see more of us and us having fun and talking crap, then that's a great place to go check it out. And that starts at only $3 a month. And it really, really helps us out, helps keeps the lights on over here. And then liking and subscribing is the other way that you can support the channel. Right now, we're running a campaign. I just put out a video today at the time of this recording, I don't know if this episode will be coming out after this giveaway is done or not, but we put something out where we're doing a giveaway for the next 30 days. So until basically the start of April 3rd, where for every new subscriber, until we hit 1,000 subscribers or until we hit 30 days, we are giving away a free indie published book, thanks to Holly Tinsley and Thomas Howard Riley and a bunch of other authors who kind of donated their books for the cause. We're very, very fortunate to have them all as friends. So if you want a free book, go check out that video. If it's still within the time frame, like I said, April 3rd is kind of the cutoff date. But yeah, go check that out. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do that. You can get a free book out of it.
I'd like to note for people who heard the description of my channel who are like, ooh, Dresden theories, that's exciting. That's like one video. So if you're going for that for the other, that is going to be a bit disappointing.
You have a couple of them, don't you? I thought you had...
I have one video with 4 theories, and they get increasingly more tinfoil.
Okay.
And I start off normally, and then I have a hat with a bit of tinfoil, and then I have a hat that's mostly tinfoil, and then I have this massive amount of tinfoil. So there's that.
Just covered in tinfoil.
Yes.
Yeah, tinfoil hat theories are fun.
Yeah.
My channel actually has a lot of Dresden theories and spoilers for the entire series. So if you're caught up and want to do some theory crafting type stuff, go check me out.
Awesome. Yep. Nice. And Jake, we were talking about this backstage, but you actually recently did an interview with Jim Butcher.
I know.
He's like, yes,
I did. Yeah. I can't imagine like if I could go back in time until like 18-year-old Jake, like, listen, you interviewed Jim Butcher, not for like 2 minutes, for like 70.
Oh, like, dude, that's so great.
Still can't believe that happened.
So without without spoiling too much from your video, what was it like to sit down with Jim?
Well, I was very nervous before, and then I freaked out after, but I think I kept my cool during the interview. It's really, I mean, Jim's a pretty easy person to talk to.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's kind of like, I feel like there's some people who aren't over themselves, who take themselves like super seriously, but
Yeah.
Jim is over himself. Jim's kind of like, he's gonna joke around for the hour and give good answers while being pretty easy to talk to. So it was pretty chill in that respect. Which made it a lot easier compared to like, if he was like super serious the entire time, I'd be like,
Yeah.
Right.
shit.
Yeah.
And yeah,
What-
got some answers. He twice in the interview was like, I don't think I've ever talked about this, and I was like, yes.
That's awesome.
Nice.
What
Mhm.
was there anything where, because this happens to me so many times on the podcast when we're interviewing somebody that we really love, is there was there anything after the interview where you're like, crap, I forgot to ask him that or to tell him this or
So I don't think there was, because I don't normally prepare for videos that much. My game plan usually is that a wise man once said, "Fuck it, we ball." But
Nice.
this was the exception to that rule. I was much more like, turncoat Harry. I planned ahead.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And also it was pretty delayed in terms of like when they were like, yeah, let's do it in scheduling. So I had plenty of time to prepare and run it through. So I'll probably happen at some point where I'll be like, oh, I should have asked Jim that, but it hasn't happened yet. And I got
Okay.
through all the prep. So
Nice.
that
Okay.
was good.
Cool. Yeah, I'm curious, like, I mean, I'm sure that we'll probably interview him at some point in the trajectory of our podcast, or at least I hope so. But I'm a little worried because I know that I'm going to kind of fanboy out a little bit because I like Dresden Files is like bar none my number one favorite
I
series
fanboyed a
of
little
all
bit.
time. Did you? Did you?
Yeah.
So that was going to be my question is like, does he take it well? Are you able to be like, I just love this series so much?
Yeah, he's I think a pretty like grounded author where he's like, the point of this is that I want people to be obsessed with them, not like
Yeah.
I am writing this so that the literary themes of my book can be felt 1,000 years from now.
Yeah.
So I think when he sees honest like appreciation of his thing, because there was a couple times where I was like, yeah, I don't know how you do this well, like it blew, and I think you can, as long as you fanboy to a non-weird degree, I think
Yeah.
you're okay.
Sure.
Um,
Okay. Very cool. Well, I'm so happy for you. I'm so glad that you got to interview Jim. That's a huge accomplishment. So congrats on that, man.
Thank you.
All right. So usually we kind of start these things with like general thoughts on the book and whatnot, and then we do our rankings. But for this one, we're actually considering doing the ranking at the end so that we can kind of talk through everything, get all of our or my vitriol out of the way, and get like the good things in there as well, and then come to a reasonable conclusion at the end. So we'll do the rankings at the end for this one. But after I know Jake didn't read Ghost Story this time, which is fine because he's read the books a million times. But for I guess everybody, what were your general thoughts, whether it be this reread or just in general for Ghost Story?
So Ghost Story was my least favorite book in the entire series the first time I read through the series. Now it's solid mid-tier, and I feel like this is a book that means a lot more on a reread.
Mm-hmm.
Without going into spoilers or anything, there's just so many things in this book that just because it kind of feels like a weird Dresden Files book. Dresden is incorporeal. He's a ghost. He can't do all his normal just walk in and burn stuff down
Yeah.
business type stuff. There goes into a lot of the other characters, and instead of everything being completely through Dresden's purview, like it's still from his point of view, but he has to actually consider the thoughts and feelings of others. And the book definitely focuses more on the cast of characters than it does just focusing in on Harry himself.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I read this for the first time when I was like 15. And we didn't mention this before, but I think when I was 15, it would have been like my third least favorite. Like I liked it more than Stormfront and Full Moon, but I think on my next two times I reread Changes and Cold Days, I skipped Ghost Story because I was like, I just want to get to Cold Days. And then I remember on my first reread, I was like, oh crap, this is kind of good. Like
Mm.
I was sleeping on this. And then I've figured out a couple more times since, and it just keeps getting better. It's actually a slightly concerning trend. I'm kind of wondering, like, if I go in
It's
the
not.
future.
It's not concerning. Okay, it's not concerning.
But it's like if you travel in the future and talk to like 50-year-old Jake, and it's like, oh, what's the best Dresden book? Is he gonna be like, oh, Ghost Story is the best Dresden book? Like
Yeah,
maybe
number one. That'd be crazy.
it's still trending up like
Yeah.
pretty linearly at this point. So it started off bottom 3, and then it was like middle of the pack. Right now it's like 6th or 7th. Like it's in that range. And it definitely could move up still. The thing is, so I have a friend on Discord, and Ghost Story is his favorite book. I just don't think I can be as cool as that because it just has distinct flaws. Like there's just things where like Harry has to take a much more passive position compared to normal. Normally he's very direct. Like his problem solving is very direct. It's like
Yeah.
vampire, fire. Like he's not known for his subtlety.
Right.
And here he has to be a lot more indirect. And I don't know if that was handled as well.
Yeah.
So like it has that going against it. And also like the Fitz, I forget the dude's name, starts with A, Aramedes or whatever. That plot line is just kind of whatever. Archimedes, thank you. There's no way that's that dude's real name. Like that dude was like, that dude, remember when I said Jim's over himself? Archimedes was not over himself. He thought he was the shit. He would be super annoyed if he learned that the Dresden Files exist and he's like the least important antagonist in like all 17 books.
Right, yeah.
If he
Yeah.
learned that, he'd be
Yep.
like, what? And I'd be like, yeah, there are short stories that have antagonists that are cooler than you. Like, have you read The Warrior? And that dude had no
Yeah.
magic at all.
Right.
So it has that against it, but it just has so much that's like so good from like a introspective character perspective. Especially the supporting cast, like Molly. The Molly stuff
Yep.
is so good.
Yep.
It has some of the, in my opinion, the most beautiful scenes. With like Harry and his connection to magic.
Mhm.
So maybe one day that can overcome Archimedes being lame. And it can be my favorite. But alas, right now it's like in the top third.
Okay.
Top
What about you, Gabe?
Yeah, I would agree with V. She said it was a very unique Dresden Files book. It is, right? It's a lot different from what we get. Harry's a ghost. He's kind of just out there figuring stuff out for the first time, which for Harry is not really the norm, right? He's heard of that, done that, seen that. Whereas
Right.
now he's brand new. He's a baby.
Yeah.
And I think that's the reason why I enjoy this book so much. I don't honestly know where I would rank it, but kind of him being in the situation where he's got to step back and say, okay, I don't really know what I'm supposed to do. Like, I don't really know what's going on, and having to figure it out step by step with Mort and with Molly and with everybody is just really cool.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, that I think for me, so when I read it this time, I was going into it prepared to be like, maybe this is the time that changes my mind. Like maybe I will come away from this being like, oh, I really like Ghost Story now. And I just don't.
I knew you were gonna say that. Dang it. Dang it.
I feel like there's moments. I mean, if you look through my notes here, there's moments throughout that I loved. Like there's certain scenes that I really, really enjoyed. There's a couple scenes that like made me tear up a little bit. And it's like I like the individual moments. I don't like what they do as an entire unit. Um, I think one of my frustrations with this book that may not necessarily be one of my frustrations now, but it's kind of carried over from the first time I read it was that, you're reading through the series and every book, even though it is its own contained story for the most part, it's rapidly advancing you along this timeline of things that are happening in Harry's life. And this is the book where, like, even though 6 months go by from the time of changes to this book, it's like everything is just put on pause. Like everything, like Harry becoming the Winter Knight and all of this stuff that is happening around him or to him or whatever is completely put on pause for this, like Jake said, a more introspective book where Harry is kind of, he's put in a position where he can't really do a whole lot and he can't really he can't really advance the larger narrative of the story. Like when you look at the major umbrella arc of the story of the Dresden Files, this is not doing much to make that go further. We get to know some really interesting things and some like behind the scenes stuff, but we don't it doesn't push us forward. And in that way it reminds me a lot of Full Moon, where it's like Full Moon could like honestly like not even exist as a book and it wouldn't really change that much besides maybe a couple things. um and so I kind of it's kind of in that same league. I like it more than Full Moon, but I don't know if there's any other book that I like less than this one besides Full Moon.
I think that's
um
a pretty reasonable reason. Like that was my
Yeah.
frustration, I think, the first time I read it and the first couple times I reread it, because it's like you read changes and all this crazy stuff happens and you want to
Mhm.
know what happens next. And you're like, oh, well, I want to see Harry as the Winter Knight. I want to see how he interacts with Mab. I want to see how this affects all the stuff he's gonna do. Like, how is the Winter Knight gonna
But you
affect how
can't
powerful
because
he
he's
is?
dead.
How is this
Yeah.
Winter Knight gonna affect like what's going on in his head? And then it's like, oh, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
You
It's
can't
like
do that. He's dead.
changes created a huge amount of fallout, and Ghost Story was half of that fallout, but it's not the half we wanted. Like,
Right.
it's not the first question you ask of what's going to happen next. But it answers the questions we need answered. Like, who killed you? How is
Yeah.
this going to affect the people? And then, when you learn that you killed you, how is this going to affect the people around you, dude? How's this going to affect the world, dude? What are the consequences of your actions? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
these are all things that needed answered, but they're not the things like you want answered when you finish changes.
Yeah.
So I totally get that. Like, if you go back in time and interview the hater version of me, he would probably, in a much higher pitched voice, because he was a 15-year-old, would give like similar frustrations. And I don't disagree with you. I
Sure.
just don't know if I care anymore.
That's so great. Yeah, I don't know. I just cannot really get past that. And like I said, there are if you took individual moments from this book and just showed that to me as a scene, like a microfiction or something, I would have been like, that was awesome. I love that. It made me laugh or it brought me to tears or whatever. But then all of them kind of put together, I was just like I just want to get on with it. And I didn't feel like I just want to get on with it this read through, but that's how I felt definitely in the past. I think what bugged me the most this read through that I noticed a lot more of is a lot of the like Deus Ex Machina stuff, like where at the end Harry's like I really liked his monologue when he was putting down, he was like invoking the meaning of be, like when he became corporeal again. I like that monologue, but I hated the Deus Ex Machina of it all, where it's like, oh, okay, so he needed to be physical for a second, and so Jim Butcher just had him be physical for a moment because the story needed him to.
Mhm.
And I was just like, like he can do it because he's crazier than the other ghosts. Like, okay,
but also because he understands how
Yeah,
like
he
magic
understands
works.
it. Exactly. Exactly.
Like he has spent his entire life training his mind to focus on like willing the universe to exist in ways that it shouldn't. That's what
Yeah.
he spent his life doing. So I
Mhm.
disagree that it's a Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah.
I think it's not something, it's not like incredibly foreshadowed, but this is a side thing. I think the term Deus Ex Machina gets like really misused. Deus Ex Machina is like an outside force that isn't set up, showing up and just solving the problem. This is the consequences of who Harry has been for 12 books and his entire skill set, and how we've been told that this whole ghost thing works.
well, no,
Like,
because in the moment he's like the reason that that bee thing worked was because he's like, what other ghost would willingly give up his existence as a spirit and try to like go save his friends and like take on the corpse taker and all this stuff. Like no other ghost would do that. Therefore, I'm crazy and I can become corporeal. And I was just like, that's the reasoning?
I
Like
mean,
what?
that's kind of, I feel like the like Harry being like, yeah, I'm crazy reason. Like that's, Harry doesn't take himself super seriously, and he's like, I can do it because it's crazy. But like when he's willing things into the universe as a ghost, it's not a coincidence that he's more able to do it than other ghosts, with the fact that he has spent the last like 25 years of his life practicing willing things into the universe with his will. Like that's his entire thing.
But then
Right.
wouldn't any other wizard who is a shade be able to do that?
Well, I mean, you got to be a little creative.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just stuff like that. There's another one that's in my notes somewhere that I was kind of like, okay. But I think I'm of two minds about the magic in this book, because on the one hand, I'm like, I think it's super cool that we got to see the spiritual realm and like that side of how magic works with the memories, and how once you use a memory to fuel a spell, then it's like part of you that is gone. Like you used it like a bullet and that's all you have. And so you have to be very careful with what memories you use and like how much of it you use, because like we see at the end, it like kind of takes all of Harry. Um and so I like that idea of it. Um the thing I don't really like is that it's hard to get all of the information and the mechanics behind the magic figured out in one book. And so I wouldn't be surprised if in future books we see more of this side of the magic system and we see like other shades using it or something. But I think that it was just kind of like I got the feeling that Jim Butcher was like, okay, so I need to figure out a way for him to use his magic system in this new way, but it wasn't something that had been planned from the beginning. Like there's a lot of stuff in the Dresden Files that feel like they were planned from the beginning. I don't feel like Ghost Story is one of them. Like I don't feel like Ghost Story was like everything had been leading to this. It to me, it felt like something that had kind of not been done at the last minute. Like obviously he planned out the book and like figured out how it was all going to work, but it didn't feel like it was kind of native to the whole original outline.
So do you think, this is kind of just a general blank question, but would you, Spencer, rather have had just, you know, Harry dying and then him waking up with nothing in the middle? Do you think that would be better than having this thing?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. Because I don't know how else you do it, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't
Yeah.
know. I think the problem I have with this book isn't necessarily the fact that Dresden is like a ghost in the
Mm-hmm.
spirit realm. My issue is that it felt like a side story. Like it felt like even though Corpse Taker needed to be taken down and like Uriel sent him
Yeah, I can.
out to do that,
Yeah.
I feel like there could have been a way to in the bigger like umbrella of the whole series, this could have been the moment where it's like this major thing needed to happen in order for Battleground to happen. And the only way that it could have happened was for Harry to be a ghost and like do something in the spirit world that would get us to Battleground or Peace Talks or whatever, or Skin Game or whatever. And I just feel like there wasn't anything that directly was a cog in the big machine that is the Dresden Files. Like it feels like
Yeah.
it's kind of its own thing, and
I mean,
it
that's interesting because
Yeah.
I mean, in some ways it's true, but I feel like it's kind of true for like most of them. Like, there's every Dresden book has important stuff from like character relationship standpoints, but like, I don't know, how does the greater story change if Eldritch Fetch is never killing people and proven guilty? Does that actually change anything for the greater story? Like, this
No,
kind of
what
feels true of like every book except like Grave Peril changes in Battleground.
No, because I think like even proven guilty when Molly gets taken to Arctis Tor, I mean I can't say too much about it, but that's how we get to like Cold Days,
I
right?
mean, we'd still get to
Mhm.
Cold Days, but that foreshadowed one thing that was later a thing in Cold Days. But I mean, like the actual, like
But it's
Ghost Story
also
foreshadows things that are later as well. Like,
but proven guilty is also Molly becoming Harry's apprentice, which is a
okay,
huge moment in the series.
we're
Mhm.
gonna see go proven guilty works for the greater story because it drastically changes who Molly is and her role in the story. Unlike that Ghost Story, like
Mm.
that's like Ghost Story absolutely does the same thing for Molly,
Yeah.
and it establishes her being her own person and wizard separate from being Harry's apprentice. And also, by the way, we can't talk about Cold Days, but there's a thing that happens with Molly in Cold Days that's wildly set up in Ghost Story and wouldn't really work without all the Molly stuff in Ghost Story.
Mhm.
So like I feel like it's kind of true, but I feel like that's kind of true for most of them because they are
that's
by
fair.
their nature somewhat self-contained.
Yeah, and I also feel like Ghost Story explained a lot of the mechanics of how the ghost stuff works in the Dresden Files universe. We get a little bit of that in Grave Peril, uh, but we don't really see exactly like how it works, the ins and outs, or what happened when Corpse Taker took over Lucio's body back in Deadbeat.
Yeah.
And this book allows us to get a little bit more in the weeds of like how that sort of magic system works. Also, Jim Butcher wasn't in a great place in his life when he wrote Ghost Story, and I think that
Right. Yeah.
that might be a big reason why this kind of feels like it's a book that's a little bit out of place. And also goes back to a lot of the things that Harry's thinking about, where he's talking about life and people, and it kind of has, I don't want to say it has It's a Wonderful Life vibes, because that's kind of a stretch, but sometimes it has a Wonderful Life vibes.
Yeah. It's there's moments that are very like sentimental and reminiscent and like all of the monologues whenever he's going deep into one of his memories, I loved every single one of those. Like those were the best parts of the book for me, was like the B monologue, the home monologue we'll talk about later, the uh what was the other one? The first one that he does,
Yeah,
Flickumbicus, like
the
all of
Flickenbick one, yeah.
dude,
That's
man, all of those were so good.
I think
Um,
the Flickenbickus one might be some of like Jim's most gorgeous writing, where it's
oh
like
dude.
it's such a beautiful scene. Like
Oh god, it's so good. We could talk about that real quick, but um I was curious, didn't I think Jim's dad died right before the writing of this or during the writing of it or something, and that's why he decided to go this route. I can't remember.
I
It was
believe
in an interview
it was the
somewhere.
Legendarium podcast, and I don't know if it was like a
Yes.
recent
Yeah.
thing, but this was him reflective upon like in the past a failed suicide attempt and being like, what would have happened if you succeeded?
Right.
Like that's
Right.
gonna
Yeah.
like this wouldn't just be hurting you. Like get this through your goddamn head.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've
Right.
also heard that mentioned on r/fantasy. Apparently, like they discouraged people on that subreddit from talking about it.
Mm,
But I also think that one, it's important for us to understand the context of where Jim was when he was writing the story. But
yeah.
two, like mental health is a problem that I don't think gets enough attention.
Mhm.
Like it gets attention like when something terrible happens, but it's always good to be like, hey, this can impact things. Let's talk about it in art form, and also talk about it like if it's something affecting somebody that's listening today.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, if people if you haven't heard that Legendarium interview, I highly recommend it. It's probably the best Jim
It's the
Butcher
best Jim
interview.
Butcher
Yeah.
interview. I did not beat it. I did not come close to beating it.
Still
Yes.
go listen to Jake's though. Still go
Yeah,
listen
mine's
to
pretty
Jake's.
good. Mine's better than most Jim Butcher interviews, I think. But
That's
that
so
was the
great.
standard we were not close to catching.
Oh man. I'm legitimately so excited to go listen to it right after this episode. Okay, so yeah, let's talk about the Flickumbicus scene, because I think I would be surprised if that wasn't everyone's like either favorite scene or almost favorite scene.
I
I
don't
no?
I don't know what my favorite scene is in this book.
Okay.
I
Yeah, I
feel
was
like
gonna say
there's
I've got a couple, and a couple of mine are like very small scenes, but made me
Mm,
feel the most, you know.
yeah.
And then of course that one was one, but I've got a couple others that I'm like, it was an awesome scene.
Yeah,
So
sure.
go ahead, go
Yeah.
ahead.
I love it because it is we get so many like anecdotes and so many times where Harry is reminiscing like, oh yeah, like growing up with Justin, it was kind of like this or whatever,
Hmm.
but we've
Mhm.
never seen a scene from that
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
And so well, besides maybe in White Knight, we kind of got to see like some stuff with him and Elaine when they were kids, but this was like Harry's first real spell. Like he had done the
yeah.
pole vaulting thing and like, flown over or whatever. He's like, how did I do
All
that?
unintentional. Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah. But this was like Justin sitting him down and saying, this is how you do magic. you need to start a fire. And Harry just sitting down and doing it over and over. And he had the Bic
Big
that was
lighter,
there,
yep.
and he like trying to light the thing. And then he's like not getting it and not getting it. And Justin comes over and he's like, doesn't he hit him or slap him or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah.
And Harry was saying, like, he never yelled at me. He never like called me names or anything like that. He would just hit me once and then it was over. And then I had to keep going. And it's like, wow, what a crazy, what like a scary,
Relationship.
yeah, like a
Yeah.
scary relationship, but like
Mhm.
not just because Justin is like physically abusing him, but also because Harry almost sees it as like this mentorship. Like when Harry finally makes the flame, he's like, Justin came over and said, "Good job, boy. Like, I'm so proud of you," and like gives him a
Mhm.
glove and stuff. And Harry is like borderline in tears, like, nobody's ever said that to me
Yeah.
before, and
Yeah,
nobody's
but
ever
you know
given
what
me a gift
probably
before.
happened after that?
Oh yeah, the shield
Pelted him.
lesson.
Yeah. The shield
Yeah.
lesson. Exactly. Exactly.
And so that's what I think is like not funny, but so interesting about that scene. It's like he gets handed this baseball mitt, and Justin even says, "I think baseball is going to be a very rewarding experience for you." And it teaches Harry how to throw up a shield. It's like, oh man, it's like you know what's coming and you know what's in store for little Harry. And I don't know. I also love the moment when he's trying to figure it out and he's saying something in like Egyptian or whatever Dumorn was using for his language,
Mhm.
and it's not working. And Harry has the realization, well, I don't know if he consciously had this realization, but he ends up realizing that he needs to make it his own. He can't directly copy somebody else's magic. And so Dumorn was telling him that the heat originates from your chest, and Harry's like, "No, I feel like it originates from my hand."
Yeah.
And so he like focuses his will on that, and then instead of saying whatever he said in Egyptian, he said Flickumbicus, and it worked. And just this moment of like Harry realizing, holy shit, I
Yeah.
can do it. Like I can actually do it. Like, oh, it's such a good scene. It's so good. And then even Dumorn coming over and being like, "Good job, boy. Like that was really well done." And Harry's inner monologue of like, he's like, nobody's ever, like when I was at the orphanage, like nobody ever gave specifically me attention. Nobody ever gave specifically me a gift. It was always, someone coming and visiting all of the kids or someone giving gifts to all of the kids. He's like, this is the first time where somebody has like spent time with me and like focused on me. And obviously we know how like incredibly toxic that
Mhm.
relationship is, but it's so sad on the side of Harry where it's just like this poor kid. Oh my God.
Mhm.
And then it also like it cuts back to current Harry doing like the Flickumbicus, and I still remember the line. It was like it
Oh,
was just as beautiful like as it was. I misquoted it was something like it was just as beautiful as it was all those years ago. And
yep.
so I think the most fundamental aspect of Harry's character is his belief in magic, that magic is a force of good, and it's a force of like it's beautiful and a force of good and should be used for good. And I think this is why like his faith symbol works so well, because he has faith in that and he's backed that up. Like he's
Mhm.
put himself in huge danger and through horrible things because he believes that magic should be used like as a force of good. And also, yeah, like just the Justin Moonlight, like the fact that he's hitting him like not in anger almost makes it more frightening, because
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's like
Yes, like
it's so
Totally.
cold and
sociopath.
Yeah.
calculating.
Instead of
Mhm.
anger, it's manipulative. That's
Uh,
it.
Mhm.
It's
Oh,
a
it's
way to
100%
get
manipulative.
that would still
in
be
his head.
horrible,
Yeah.
but at
Oh,
least
but it's even more
then we
scary.
know what's going on. Like
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think you can like, yeah, someone is just really angry, like that's familiar, but
Right.
Exactly.
like
Anger is readable.
hitting a kid out of like as a move,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's just
Exactly.
Like a teaching technique.
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
It ooh. Yeah, it's very like alien and kind of remote from, when we see somebody hitting another person, like you said, we perceive that as anger, but for it just to be a tool, like a motivational tool, it's kind of like, wow, this takes another level of like borderline inhumanity.
Yeah.
And man, I really hope that we see more chapters in the future with flashbacks to Justin, because I think that he's such an interesting character, and I think that if we knew more about Justin, we would know a lot more about just probably a lot of theories that have been flying around. Like I bet if we had more info on Justin, a lot of those would be confirmed. As most of you know, I do believe Cowell is Dumorn.
Even though
Just
Justin is, according to Jim, dead. But
he
we're
said
just
he
gonna
said he said
Yeah,
DED
but
dead.
yeah.
but Mab said that death is a spectrum.
Yeah.
Well, Justin is
Yeah.
DED. So does that mean missing the A means it's not quite as dead? All right.
Yeah, I totally
Yeah.
think it's like that was a choice on Jim's part to spell it that way. Like
Yeah.
there's no
Right.
way.
I
But I also
about-
don't think Justin Dumorn is like or no, sorry, I don't think it's just I think it's uh Kemmler in Justin Dumorn's body.
Mhm.
That was my theory.
Oh,
Um,
100%.
yeah.
I also like there are a few characters in this series who it's like, wow, a short story from their perspective would be really cool, but we'll never get it because they know too much. And Justin Dumorn is on that list.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Like the one I want is a Rashid short
Oh
story.
yeah,
yeah.
But we're never gonna get it. Or
No,
maybe
he
we'll
knows
get
too
like
much,
when
man.
everything is
At
over.
the end, yeah.
Because
At
he
the
knows
end,
too
yeah.
much.
Yeah,
so-
I would really love to get like Rashid is like Rashid, the
Gatekeeper.
gatekeeper. Yes, thank
Yeah.
you. I would love to get potential spoilers. I'm gonna be super vague about this. There is a dinner with a particular person and Rashid that I would absolutely love a short story about.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to talk about Mortimer Lindquist. We get a bunch of him in this book.
One of my favorite moments is one of the first couple moments here. Go ahead, continue, but
Okay. Yeah, well, I was just gonna leave it up to you guys to talk about. I have some thoughts, but what was your favorite moment with him?
my favorite moment is when they're kind of being attacked, every night or so. Sir
Stewart.
Sir Stewart, thank you, says, and this time they send a human, non-corporeal, to Mort's house. And Harry's, of course, freaking out. Mort, there's, somebody here with a gun. And Harry's trying to like scare the guy, and nothing works. And then finally, Harry's like, I got to do something. And he jumps into Mortimer and he says, Defendarios, like right as he's about to get shot. I was like, dude, yes, go Harry. That was it, though. I just like that always made me just like smile. I'm like, good
Yeah.
job, dude.
I loved that, and then I loved when like Mortimer kicks him out, and he's like, what do I do? What do I do? And then he like calls all of his ghosts to him,
and he starts just like,
oh,
dude,
dude,
awesome.
And it fits with his character so well because Mortimer is a self-proclaimed coward, and so
Yeah.
it makes sense that his style of magic would be getting other people to defend him or to like help him in some way. And so the idea that he is this ectomancer that has control of these ghosts and is able to use them in certain ways. He even says later on near the end of the book, he's like, he asks Sir Stewart, he's like, you know knots, right? And he pulls Stewart into him to help him like tie a knot. I'm like, that's so freaking cool. And what I love about this series so much is just the very different ways that people use magic. I have a bunch of notes later down the line about how Molly uses her magic and how interesting it is.
Oh, the
And
one woman rave.
yeah, well, not only that, but I'll talk about it later. But just like everything that she does in this book is so incredible and unique compared to Dresden, where he's like this powerhouse. And then you have Mortimer, who's he just
A leader.
He uses he's a leader in his own way, and it's just so cool how he thinks to use his magic because it's so different than how Harry would use it.
How he starts to think, I would say, because Harry's the one that's like forcing him out of his shell, right? Like he's been, scrounged up. I'm not doing anything. And even Sir Stewart says after that scene, he's like, wow, I thought you forgot how to do that, Mortimer. Like, screw you. I remember how to do it. Like,
yeah. And at the same time, though, he's like, it's mentioned multiple times throughout the story that he is like he's not just like some ectomancer. He's like a world-class
Yeah.
ectomancer.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
he
like a
is,
White Council level wizard.
Yep.
yeah.
Just
And
like at one thing.
at one
Yeah,
thing, yeah. It's
at
like
ectomancy.
he has a specialty that he focuses in, whereas Harry is kind of like a handyman
Yep.
that knows a
Jack
lot
of
of
all trades.
yeah, and
Yep.
he's like really good at like force and fire, and then everything else he's like okay at.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Redirecting energy.
yeah.
Yep.
And so yeah, I loved everything with Mortimer in this book. And what's funny is like the times this is one of those things that I liked more on this reread, because in the past I was like, yeah, Mortimer's all right. Even while reading this book, I was like,
Mm.
yeah, he's cool or whatever. And then reading it this time, I had a way bigger appreciation
Yeah.
for Mort. And
Mhm.
especially at the end, there's a moment where like Karen, she's like, where's Harry's ghost? And he's like, I don't know, it's not here. And she starts to cry, and he doesn't like comfort her, but he like stands in front of her so that nobody else can like see her crying.
Yeah.
And Harry's like, I can't believe I never realized what a good guy
Yes.
Mortimer is. He's
Yes.
like, I'm so glad that he's here for Karen and for everybody like in this time of need. And like
Not
even
only
oh god.
No, I was just gonna say, to add to that too, when he's hanging up in the, being tortured, Harry's like, because every time he's like, no, I'm not telling you shit, getting
Mhm.
beat on and devoured.
Dude
And
has some
Harry's like,
sass.
Yeah.
Harry was
Yeah.
proud of him.
Harry was
Yeah.
like, man, I never
that's pretty
realized
good."
how,
Yeah.
how
Mhm.
much of a badass this guy was.
Yeah.
Harry's
know?
especially proud of him because he's talking back to someone way more
Yeah,
powerful
exactly.
than him.
He's like,
Right. Yeah.
screw you, I'm not gonna give you,
Like if he'd been
nothing, dude.
defiant in silence, Harry'd be like quietly appreciative of him. But
Yeah.
sass, Harry's like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He's like, let's go.
Yeah.
Also, so I've talked about this, but I think this is literally like Jim Butcher's best skill, where he takes a character from the past who you're like, yeah, whatever, like that person's there, and then
Mhm.
you run into them later and you grow to understand them more.
Right.
Mhm.
But like that version you understand more fits with the past version you read,
Yeah.
and you realize that like you just didn't understand them to the same degree.
Right.
Mhm.
And more normally I think of Charity and Morgan as the two ultimate examples of this, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mort on it, and maybe actually one more who's slightly immortal, but Mort is honestly one of the best ones as well, who just has less screen time than those.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because like this version fits with the Stormfront version, but
Mm.
like you'd never read Stormfront and know, because Harry, like Mortar seems like such a loner, and to a degree he is a loner, but it's because
Mhm.
all his friends are ghosts.
Ghosts.
Like he
Yeah.
actually has company. It's just company that no one else can talk to. So
Right.
And he's also an incredibly genuine person, but you spend the first couple books in the series thinking that he's kind of a fraud. It's
Yeah.
like, here's this
Yeah.
guy who might have a minor talent. He's BSing people to get money. Uh that's kind of wrong, like poor moral character. And then we get this Mort, the real Mort, and it's like he's taking care of Murphy.
Yep.
He's being this leader, and he's just completely different than what you originally
He's a
thought.
good guy overall. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I also love the moment where he's like like it was just such a badass moment. It's one of the few moments where I'm like, let's go, like while listening to the book. And like Molly and Corpse Taker are locked in this battle,
Oh,
and there's like
yes.
tendrils going over Molly's face.
Mhm.
And Harry's talking to Uriel, and he's like, help her. And he's like, if
Yes.
only I had
Yes.
orchestrated something. And Mortimer
Oh.
comes around the corner with all of these ghosts behind him, and he's like, hey, ghost bitch, or whatever he says
Yep.
to her.
Yeah.
And he's like, I guess you shouldn't have left a world-class ectomancer in a room with a pit full of wraiths.
I think he's like,
And
it
Yeah.
doesn't take like a genius. He's kind of like, hey, moron. Like,
Yeah.
you
Oh.
really didn't think of this?
That
Like,
was
Right.
awesome, dude.
Oh, dude.
Awesome
Maybe
moment.
this is why Kemmler didn't really like Corpse Taker.
Yeah. Just overthinks.
Yeah, I think Corpse Taker,
underthinks.
is like very prideful in all that she does. So
Mhm.
there's blanks
And
around her that,
she
of
doesn't even
course,
like Tolkien.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, no accounting for taste there.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's the actual quote? I have it down here somewhere. It's
Yeah,
like
he goes to the thing and he tries going melon,
Lol.
and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And he's like, so she hasn't read Tolkien, tasteless bitch.
yeah. Oh, it's so good. So yeah, Mortimer was great in this book. I really I loved him way more than I thought I would. We get to see Murphy's dad,
Yes.
Jack Murphy, and
Who
this
pranks an
was
archangel.
yeah, dude, that was so great at the end when he's like, Uriel calls him up on the phone. He's like, "Did you tell Dresden 3 of his friends were gonna die?"
Yeah.
And
he was
Murphy's
they
like,
pro-
he's
It
like,
was
"They,
probably going to
dangerous
happen
situation.
anyways.
Like, it was a dangerous situation. They probably
Yeah.
would have.
yeah."
Yeah.
He's like, I didn't technically lie. I said what I thought was gonna happen. And Uriel's like, you can't do that. You're taking away free will by doing that. And Murphy's basically says, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do, and just like hangs up on Uriel.
Yeah.
And Uriel's
Yeah.
just like looking at the phone like, what? And
Wow.
even Harry says, he just hung up on an archangel. Like,
Yeah.
holy crap. But yeah, I love this idea that when we see Dresden at the beginning, he goes into this cop shop and there's 2 angels at the door and he like opens his
Guards.
sight.
Yeah. He doesn't know they're angels until after he opens his sight and he's like, oh shit, I'm not fucking with you.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're like
No
they're
harm
like
done. I
no, and they like
apologize.
shut
Yeah.
down his sight.
Yep.
And
Wonder if
he's like,
there'll be a callback for that in a later Dresden book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Just while I'm thinking
there?
about it, one thing I noticed at the end of the book with Jack Murphy is that Uriel seemed to be talking about how there were 2 options. One, Harry could work for him and work with like Jack and Carmichael, or he could go to the great beyond, whatever is next, but he would face judgment. And I wonder sort of what's keeping Papa Murphy in purgatory instead of going on to the next thing. Like, is there some sort of guilt that he has from his days in SI, like he wasn't able to stop something?
Yeah, wasn't that mentioned though? Didn't somebody say like didn't Harry ask like why is he still hanging around? And then there was kind of a nonchalant, well, I could be wrong. I totally could be wrong, but I feel like I remember something like that taking place
Mhm.
with like kind of a vague answer, a very vague thing.
I'm not sure. I assumed that it was just that like this is what Jack Murphy does, or it's like what he did in his real life. And so when Uriel gave him the opportunity to work and do good on the supernatural side of the street, that he was like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. And
Hmm.
it was just kind of like in his blood
Yeah.
to do something like that. Um,
Mhm.
because I couldn't really I mean, granted, we don't know much about him, but as of right now, I couldn't really see him being like, "Oh yeah, I'll just go on to like judgment one way or the other and see what happens." I think that this like Chicago in between cop shop is like like fits with his character
Yeah.
really well.
Mhm.
He gets to prank archangels.
Yeah.
Have a grand time.
Yeah, for real.
I mean,
And
probably
get away
they
with
will.
it.
Yeah.
And I loved Sir Stewart at the end where he was like, I think I'm ready to move on to something else. And Uriel's like, I think I got something for you. And he like gets him in touch with Carmichael and Murphy. I thought that was kind of cool. I'm like, okay,
Yep.
so hopefully we'll see Sir Stewart again in the future. Like maybe hopefully this all comes full circle because we've made some friends in Chicago in between. And
Mhm.
I would like to see them come back in some way.
Mhm.
I loved I loved this quote where speaking of Sir Stewart, Harry and Stewart, he's like teaching him how to like do the jump, like the Nightcrawler jump.
Just be there.
And they like jump onto the back of this truck and Harry's like, "Can't we do something? Like can't we touch them?" And Stewart says, "Neither of us can touch them. We cannot exert our will on the world with we cannot exert our will on the world. With an extreme amount of effort, you may be able to move a penny across the table over several minutes." And Harry just says, "Too bad neither of us has a penny." It's like, no,
Isn't
you're
though
taking the wrong.
Isn't the first like before that though, they're on their way to Karen Murphy's to go see what's going on with her and Harry's like, well, if I'm a ghost,
Like
why don't I fall out of this car right now? And
And then
all
he
of a
does.
sudden
Yeah.
all of a sudden
Yeah.
he eats shit and Sir
Yeah.
Stewart's like, yeah, Mortimer's exerting his influence on you to not do this. I
Right.
just thought that was funny. It's
I thought-
funny. Dude.
But I thought it was just that, like, because he hadn't considered it, he didn't. Like, because he believed he shouldn't, like, subconsciously.
Yeah, no,
he
no, there
believes-
is that.
almost-
There is that. But Sir Stewart also says, you know,
Yeah,
Mortimer was
Mortimer
also
was-
exerting his influence on you. But you're absolutely right, Jake. That is also part of it.
Yeah.
As long
And-
as he believes there's a spoon, there is a
Yep.
spoon.
That's
yeah.
right. Exactly.
It's very like that was kind of one of the things I did like about this book is it's very like dream logic. Like if you like you said, if you think that there's no reason for you to fall through the seat, then you won't fall through the seat.
Yeah, dream
But it-
logic
but
or
if you-
just ghost logic, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. It just reminded me of like being in a dream. Like if I'm in the middle of a dream and all of a sudden I'm like, why wouldn't I be able to fly? All of a sudden I can like take off and just like fly around in a dream. And it's like Harry had these realizations throughout the whole book, like when he got cold. And he's like, wait, there's no reason for me to be cold. Like I
Yeah,
shouldn't
because
be
he's a
cold right
ghost.
now.
He's like,
yeah,
I'm a ghost. I shouldn't be cold.
right.
Mhm.
And I'm the Winter Knight. I'm a ghost of the Winter Knight. Like, relax. So, like, are we gonna
oh, go
talk
ahead.
about Molly? It's kind of like what the book's about.
Yeah, we should talk about
Yeah.
Molly at Murphy's. That should be the first thing we should discuss. I
Okay,
would think.
let's do
Yeah.
that.
Go ahead, Jake. I can see
Okay,
it. See it in your face.
Okay. So, Molly is what this book is about, and is really good. I I don't know where I want to start with this because there's so much to start with. But just the entire concept of Harry seeing the consequences of like what he thought was his way out to make it so there wasn't consequences. Like just because you're dead doesn't mean the consequences stop. Like your actions are
Right.
still going to keep
Yeah.
echoing throughout the people who you know and interacted with you, which is an important thing that we should all keep in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like that's the point of the book.
Mhm.
Right.
And like I just think Molly's character work is so good in this book, it's actually unreasonable.
Yeah.
Like without Molly is the reason why Molly's character work is the reason this would be one of my like top third Dresden books. Without that,
Mhm.
it would be like, oh, there were really good scenes, but like Molly is what gives it cohesiveness and is like, oh,
Right.
this is why we were here. This is why we did this
Yeah.
because we
Mhm.
needed to figure out what was going on with this and the guilt Molly was facing because of Harry's actions
Right.
and him having to confront that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or even learn about it, you know?
Yeah.
He didn't even freaking know until damn near the end of the book.
Yeah, because he
Yeah.
had Molly mind erase.
Exactly.
him.
Yeah.
Mm.
He
Yeah.
literally had her pull it from his head so he would never know.
Mhm.
I totally agree. I liked all of the stuff with Molly in this book. Those were by far some of my favorite scenes. I wish that Molly had been, this is going to sound weird at first, but I wish Molly had been in it more. Like I wish that she had kind of been with Dresden every step of the way, like she is in something like White Knight or Turncoat. I don't know. I think that I really liked the scenes, but there was like, I don't know. I don't think I'd actually be able to count how many scenes there were. But I thought multiple times, well, if she can like see him and hear him through her tuning fork, why doesn't he just stay near her all the time? Like why does he not just stay with Molly throughout the whole book and have her go with him to be his voice to everyone else? And instead Fix kind of took that role. And I was
And
like,
Also, he
and I
wanted to
like
go to
Fix.
ghost things where he could be sneaky and just like take
Yeah.
advantage of the fact that he could
Yeah.
gather information and being
Yep.
incorporeal. And like, you
Mhm.
know, if he takes Molly with him, Molly's very capable, but Molly is not immune to bullets like he is.
Right.
So that would be a
Right.
concern. And then
I-
the larger reason is because if Molly's constantly going around, then she just kind of solves all the problems.
Yeah.
Like then it's just like, oh, we have a problem, Molly, fix it with magic.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's kind of a hard, like a hard plot hole to solve at that point. If like,
But
or a plot.
I
arc,
think
yeah,
it-
but
mean.
also like Molly would solve problems differently than Dresden because she has
Mm.
different strengths.
Yeah.
Like she might do the one woman rave thing, but she's not going to just blast through a bunch of people with fire.
No.
And thematically, this book is also sort of a coming of age story for Molly because she had her mentor before. Now he's gone. Now she has to basically be the rag lady, be the scary thing that keeps people
The
from
bad
trying to fill the
people
power
away, yeah.
vacuum. And it even gets to a point where Dresden is like, Molly, you're you've become like such a powerful woman, or I don't remember the exact quote, but for the longest time he's basically like treated her like a kid, and now he's sort of accepting her as an adult.
Right.
Granted, an adult that he is not going to like pursue a romantic relationship with, but she's more of an adult. She's Maul's now. She's
Yeah.
not his apprentice. He's
Yep.
not the grasshopper.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what so Molly, I think that I like what Jim did with her in this book, and I think that probably like the first couple times I read this book, I was like, I don't really get it. Like I don't really get how she went so far downhill.
Well,
But after this reread, I'm like everything just kind of clicked together with her character, and I really like what he did with it. I don't think I realized before. I must have just missed it on one of my reads, but I don't think I realized that the scraps of cloth she was putting down were from his like torn up clothes from the
Mhm.
end of Changes. I thought that was really cool. And then when you see the scene at the end where Harry is on the table after breaking his back and he's having this conversation with Molly and how absolutely heartbreaking that is. And she's like, "You don't understand. This is going to fuck me up." And
yeah.
he's like, "We don't have any choice. Like, we have to do it." And he's not thinking about,
Oh, he's not thinking about Molly or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just thinking about strictly,
Maggie.
yeah.
yeah. And it's like, she's like, "I'll do it, but you are asking a lot from me."
Yeah.
And so then to see her now, he's like, "Oh," he's like, "That's what I did."
Well, and not only that, the Lananchi as well was
Yeah.
a huge factor on Molly becoming so utterly just viciously jaded
hmm
and so black and white about how she's like, I have to do this or else,
Yeah.
Also,
not even a ultimatum from the Lananchi, but the launch. I feel like the Lananchi makes her think like, if you don't do this, like Chicago is gonna become overrun. Like you have to do this. You are the only one that can do it. And she's like, okay, Harry's gone. He's the one that did it before. I have to do it now.
and
of
she's
course,
kind of got the Justin DeMorin attitude of
Oh,
mentoring
totally.
as
Oh,
well.
100%.
She actually, I
She's-
should say,
she's
Justin
vicious,
DeMorin has
man.
the Leonchi attitude.
Yeah,
she
she's
did it
Right.
first.
vicious. She's
And
like the
yeah.
original fucking tormentor, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, and this going back to that scene that we were talking about with the Flick and Bickus, the Lenanchi is like, "Oh, Harry, you've been doing her a disservice by not being hard enough on
Yeah.
her."
Yep.
And so basically, Leah is doing to Molly what Justin Dumont was doing to Harry
Yep.
with the Flick and Bickus stuff.
Yeah, totally.
And also,
Yeah.
you can't explain to the Leonchi, like, this isn't an acceptable way to treat someone. It just
Yeah.
doesn't
Well,
get
and Harry
Yeah.
tries. He's like,
Yeah.
I remember him asking for like, this girl needs some food and some new clothes. You got some money?
And she's like, "That's not my problem."
Yeah, she's like, that's
Yeah.
not what I need to do. Like, I
Yeah.
don't need to provide that stuff. And Harry's like, yes, you do. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, you
You
have
have
to.
a duty of care.
Yes,
Mhm.
exactly.
And she's like, but if I care for her, what if she becomes weak?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, that's
if you
how
don't
the
care for her,
Fae
what
think,
if
man.
she
It's just
becomes
yeah.
crazy? And then she's
Yeah.
like, I think I prefer crazy to weak.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, but then what happens when the White Council comes a knocking?
Exactly.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So that was an interesting thing that I thought about on this read. It's like Molly is running around with the Doom of Damocles currently on her head.
Mhm.
hmm
And Murphy even says it doesn't seem like Ramirez is looking for her particularly hard.
hmm
And surely she's out there doing black magic.
Mhm.
Like there's no way she's doing what she's doing without it being black magic.
Oh yeah, like how she describes
I
going in
would.
people's heads and
Yeah.
giving illusions and making them think that that they need to like use force on each other and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think using an illusion to have someone, would that count as a first law break? Or is it
I
like
don't
they actually
know,
killed
yeah.
themselves with their car? So I just
Yeah.
helped.
I
Might-
kind of
might
thought
be a
that there was
loophole.
some
That-
kind of loophole involved with what she's doing with the Lananchi.
She
I
might
I
be, like,
don't think that there's
almost-
some kind of loophole. Like that's some Charles Manson level. Like I
Yeah,
didn't do it. I just told
it's
them to
messed
do
up.
it.
Yeah,
The
it's
thing
super
is, the
messed
White
up.
Council is very much like, if they're
Legalistic.
like, oh, Charles Manson, you're killing them without magic, that's chill. We don't care
Yeah, it
that
doesn't
you're a murderer.
matter.
As long as
Yeah.
you're not doing it directly with magic, like, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Right, but what I was talking about was sort of the method. Like he was never present at any of the crimes that his followers
Yeah.
committed, but he was always one who was like, "Hey, y'all need to go commit these crimes."
But I think my point is, like, if the White Council was trying him, they'd be like, "Oh, that's a valid excuse. Have a nice day."
Mhm.
Like they're fine with loophole. They're like, as long as you don't break it, like overtly, like, well, I mean,
Yeah.
probably they wouldn't have a trial; they just decapitate him. But if there was a trial,
I mean, they
um,
really want to decapitate her.
They
yeah,
do.
And at the same time, like Harry tells Molly before she does the mind wipe thing that he thinks that Listens to Win or McCoy will step up and continue her training, and neither of them do. The
Right.
only one who steps up for her is Leah.
yeah.
Yeah.
But also, I think it gets mentioned that they obviously Ramirez was deliberately like letting her go, partially because I think they just had bigger fish to fry. Like everyone was really busy.
Oh yeah, no, like
Yeah.
the power vacuum after changes
Yeah.
was like
And also like
a big deal.
like she was being helpful. They're like sick, so we don't have to defend Chicago. Like
Mhm.
Chicago has a lot of crap going on that the Wardens haven't had to deal with a while because
Mhm.
Harry's there. But I'm wondering, like, is she like almost doing black magic, or
I
is
mean,
anything she-
I can't imagine that she's not. Like I can't imagine that she is not, that in the time that Harry's been dead, I cannot imagine that she hasn't at least broken
like the fourth law or the
Well,
first
like
law? Yeah.
a couple laws. Like
I mean,
just-
those are the only two she would potentially break. She isn't.
But you know what they say about dark magic, though, right? Is that once done, it's a festering disease, right?
Like-
It
Yeah.
invades the mind. And mind you,
And
this is
remember,
Like,
oh, sorry.
thing is,
No,
I
you're
don't
good,
think
go
she
ahead.
actually is overtly. I think she's not overtly because, like, if she was breaking the fourth law, she wouldn't bother with illusions to make people get in a car
Yeah.
crash. She'd just take over
Yep.
their mind and have them crash into it.
Yeah, or
But I
just
actually
like make
think
them
she's
shoot
doing
themselves in the head, right?
Yeah,
Like
I
just
think
kill
she's
yourself.
doing like the Margaret Le Fay thing, where it's like she does a bunch of shady shit, but
Yeah, gray
doesn't
area stuff. Bunch
directly
of gray
break.
area.
I don't think she actually directly breaks any of the laws of magic.
Yeah, that's where I'm at with it. That's what I believe, and I know that's just an opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess at the end of the day, it would just come down to what the White Council considers breaking the law, as far
Yeah.
as like if using an illusion to make somebody harm themselves is like, maybe that is a loophole. I just don't know. I could see the council going one of two ways on it. I don't know.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's probably about timing too. Like at this time, like obviously Molly is protected for the most part by the Lananchi. She's not gonna get caught by,
Kind of
the
like it's kind of
council.
like I feel like the Harry version of that would be like, I made a spike with ice, but then I stabbed them with it with my arm
Without
Like,
throwing it with magic.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
and is
yeah.
like, well, did you actually? Is that from the
No, I
magical
did
perspective?
not
Like
use
once,
magic to kill him.
like once the ice is just ice, I
It's
think.
right. Yep.
I
yep.
think
Yeah.
from their perspective, that's the same as if he just went and found an icicle and stabbed someone with it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, but there's also some things that she might not have personally done, but when the Leonchi was acting as the rag lady,
Yeah.
uh, she could
Oh,
get
that's
blamed
true.
for that.
That's
Oh
true.
yeah, she got.
Absolutely.
But so
yeah.
I'm less concerned about whether the White Council is going to be like execute mode because she's already under the doom of Damocles and has
Yeah.
no mentor, so they're already like theoretically supposed to execute her. I'm more worried
Right.
about like the corrupting influence of black
Mhm.
magic,
Yes.
and if
that's-
she's directly
yes,
committing it,
Yes.
that like Harry would be able to sense that in her
That's
magic
exactly
as well.
what I was thinking.
And I
Yeah.
think
Right.
if she was like directly
It
murdering people
warps a
or
mind. It doesn't matter how
breaking the fourth
protected you
law,
think you
yeah.
are, right? It changes you on a
She might kind of be starting at least at this point, she might be starting to go down that path.
yeah.
Remember when Harry like soul gazed her and looked at like 12 different futures or
Mhm.
whatever it was, and you had this one where she was basically like a sunken in eyes and kind of like
Yeah.
crazy looking. I think that at this point in the story, that was her going towards sort of
Yeah.
that fate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Um,
like left alone, she would have started doing
Totally.
like
Right.
directly. Like at some point, she would have been like, "This is too hard. Like screw the illusion of changing this from a green light to a red light to a green light.
Hmm.
Let's just have them kill themselves by taking over their mind. Like this
Yeah.
is
Mhm.
way less difficult."
Okay, so I want to keep talking about Molly just for a little bit. I have some notes on her magic here. I think it's so cool that we got to see her really use her illusions and stuff to great effect. Because
Yeah.
I feel like in the past we've seen her veil and we've seen her do the one woman rave, which
Yeah.
are both awesome. But in this, we get to see
Very
finely
precise.
tuned.
Yeah.
Oh man, it is so good. And Leah calls it Virilomancy, which I thought was interesting. I'm like, okay, so we have an actual name for it. And I think one of my notes on this is that I love the difference between her and Dresden, because I feel like it would have been really easy for Jim Butcher to write it in the way where it's like, okay, she's Dresden's apprentice, therefore she's just going to be like a female Dresden, right? Like she's going to like learn how to use like raw force and fire and all this stuff. And I'm glad that he went a different route with it and kept it very true to Molly's character, because when we see her in Proven Guilty, like at the beginning of her using magic, she's already somewhat adept with getting into people's heads and making them think certain things. And so I could just picture this scenario in which, over the next couple of years, she's training with Dresden and she's like, okay, so I'm good at mind magic, but it's against the laws of magic. So
Oops.
how can I do that in a way where I'm not breaking the laws? And Dresden saying, well, there's illusions that like it's kind of in the same vein, but you're not like directly like manipulating
Yeah.
inside somebody's head. And she's like, okay, and ran with that. Of course, that's headcanon, but that's just how I picture it going down. Um,
Interesting.
and I think that's very true. The whole illusion thing is very true to her character, and it fits with not only the magic she's done before, but also just her personality. Like she very much seems like, I don't know how else to explain it other than she seems like someone that would use illusion magic. And so
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was so cool watching her. The with the difference being that Harry is this like raw, unstoppable force, and he can put so much will and power into a strike. And then you have Molly on the other hand, she can't do that, but she can do many different things all very precisely,
Yeah.
like very like pinpoint accuracy. And one of the moments, it's such a small moment that just gets mentioned real quick and then it's gone. But there's a motorcycle when that first fight is happening where she's like right after the thing with Leah. There's a motorcycle in that parking lot or whatever, and the motorcycle goes flying. And Leah explains, I think it was Leah that explained this. What she actually did was she set a timed veil on top of the motorcycle, and then on top of that, in the same instant, she placed an illusion of the motorcycle and made the illusion go flying while the veil still sits on the actual motorcycle. And all of this happened like that. Meanwhile, she's got 6 other Mollies dancing around with guns and doing all sorts of other crazy stuff. And it's like she's able to like put this on so fast and Harry can't come anywhere close to it. Like
Yeah.
he could not like he's even I was it in Changes where he makes an illusion of them and he's like, they kind of looked like us, like they didn't look exactly like
He
us.
also cheats. He used Soulfire as well.
Yeah.
Right, yeah,
Um,
exactly. And so I just love this idea of like Molly has gotten so good at it to where, from what I understood from the text, was that the veil on the motorcycle, she doesn't even have to like hold that in her mind at the same time of doing all this stuff. Leah called it a temporary veil. And how I would interpret that is that she was able to construct the spell and place it down, and when it expires, and she doesn't have to do anything more
Yeah.
with it. And I'm like, that's so cool. Like,
Yeah.
oh God, I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah. It's like if Harry was power, then Molly was utter control.
Finesse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Harry's the
finesse.
hammer and Molly's the scalpel.
Yep.
Yes,
Exactly.
exactly.
And then also Harry lends her his hammer to help
Yeah.
out. I love the
Yes.
illusion of fire, and then they jump
Yeah.
through and it's just an illusion, and Harry's like, you know what would be
Oh.
hilarious?
If I turned it into real fire.
Yeah.
That's
Uh,
so baller.
and then the people are like, oh, that you can't fool me once, shame on you. You can't fool me twice. And it's like, oh.
Oh crap.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that the two of them, when Harry's alive,
They cover each other's weaknesses.
yeah, exactly. They're so complementary to each other where she can veil them while he deals out punishment, and they just work so well in
Yeah.
conjunction to each other. And even though we've gotten a lot of Molly in the series, I still think we need more. Like I still think we need more
Yeah.
like Molly and Harry together kicking ass.
Well, I feel like we're getting it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of, I feel like most duos for like most things that are as successful as possible, whether it's like leadership duos, sports duos, or they're not too similar people. They're people who cover each other's weaknesses. Like
Right.
Yeah.
it's Shaq and Kobe, right?
Yep,
Like
right.
it's the people with very different strengths. Because like when you're already really good at something, having someone who's also really good at something gets redundant at times, and it's just like,
Yeah. It's
you know,
like,
if
I
you had
can do
another
this just
person,
fine. I don't need,
yeah, like if Harry was already good at veils, it'd be like, okay, so Molly's good at veils, but like Harry could already make them invisible.
Yeah, it's like cool, but I can do it just fine.
For those of us who have been nerds since the beginning, what in 30 seconds, what does Shaq do and what does Kobe do?
Shaq, 7'3", 300-pound man, get ball, dunk.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Kobe, very skilled man, shoot ball from far away.
Okay.
Pass.
Nice.
There you go.
Good
That's
job.
great.
Good job.
Perfect.
That was perfect.
You nailed
Perfect.
it.
There you
Oh.
go.
V, any thoughts on Molly's magic and how she works in conjunction with Harry, or what do you think about that whole thing?
So I think that Molly's magic is sort of a good foil for Harry's magic. He's very direct. He's very one punch and I'm done type.
Mhm.
Molly is a glass cannon,
Yeah.
and sort of more of a support character, but she's stupid effective at it.
Mhm.
And she's able to, like y'all talked about, she's able to hold multiple illusions in her head at one time, and she's able to manipulate little details. And Harry is trash at the detail stuff.
Yeah.
Like he is so bad. Like he
Like
is trying
burn it
so
all
hard.
down. No details
Yeah.
required.
Yeah. And I think that Molly, especially in this book, she's really coming into her own. And I don't know, I'm just proud of my girl.
Yeah.
Hell
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm proud of my dysfunctional, slightly crazy girl. She's doing her best.
She's going
Yeah.
through a rough patch though, okay? She gets better.
Yeah.
All right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Gets better. She
Yeah,
heals
it's
somewhat.
speaking of that, they go to this diner, and that's kind of my next batch of Molly notes here.
Oh yeah, where
And
she's talking to herself, or everybody thinks
Yep.
she's talking to herself.
right.
I'm always like, I don't care. I could give a shit about that.
She's like, I'm
Right,
used to
yeah.
talking to him crazy.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And especially in like downtown Chicago, like come on. But
Yeah, for real.
but also I don't know, it was so interesting to see it from her perspective because we're watching her at Murphy's house and we're
Mhm.
like, holy crap, she has gone completely crazy, like downhill, all this stuff. And then we talk to her at the diner, and it's this thing where it's like, oh, I kind of get it now. Like now that
Yeah.
I know what she's going through and like what she has to put up with on a daily basis, it makes sense that she wouldn't want any of her friends near that. Honestly, it seems like something Dresden would do or has done,
Mhm.
where he's
Yeah.
pushed his friends away in order to keep them safe. And I think that's exactly what Molly is doing.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's so interesting, and there was so many just heartbreaking anecdotes, like he's like, I never got with you because I thought, you're my best friend's daughter or whatnot. She's like, maybe when I was younger, Harry. She's like, if you haven't noticed, I'm like in my mid-20s
Mid-20s.
now.
Yep.
And he's like, oh crap.
There's a
And
quote.
oh,
A
go ahead.
quote that she says, like in the beginning of that's pretty inappropriate. I don't know if I should say it, but
You can say it.
she's like, man,
Oh, yeah.
normally I'd give a cigarette to somebody who was inside of me or something like that,
Right,
right?
yeah.
Like just
She's like,
very,
so
and Harry's like, oh,
oh,
what'd you
yeah.
say?
She's
You
like,
know?
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, holy crap.
I mean, technically, he did get inside her when
Yes,
he
he
took
did.
her
He
over.
did. That's true.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's technically true.
Yep.
Yeah. But I mean,
Um,
he did it to Mort too. So like, how
Yeah.
special can
Yeah.
it be?
I know,
that's
yeah.
true. That's true. Yep.
Harry's all over town.
Yeah.
He gets around.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
The
It's
part
the
that
closest that it ever is to being true. Funnily, while he's a ghost.
I know. I'm like, I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily somebody that ships Molly and Harry because I obviously want him to be with Karen. I feel like that's kind of like the big like romantic focal point.
Mhm.
But there's a part of me that's like, I know it was like icky back in Proven Guilty, but I'm kind of like, I mean, we know
Now
where
it's
they
not
are.
really so icky.
Yeah, because like
I
you
get
know,
it.
no spoilers or anything, but in Battleground, it's like they could definitely go for it at that point. I think
I don't want it
like,
during the series, but if you want an epilogue 20 years later where it's a thing as the
Yeah.
ending,
That's fair.
I'm okay with it.
That's
Yeah,
fair.
Yeah,
That's
or
fair.
like when they're both like old and both old enough to be in a nursing home, like I don't think it matters anymore.
Yeah,
at
like
that
Yeah.
I at some point, if Harry's 100 and Molly's like 88,
60?
like
Yeah.
Yeah.
who cares?
70.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fair.
No one's
That's
gonna be
fair.
like, this 88-year-old is not mature enough to be in this relationship. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
if Harry makes it to 100, we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
She says she's talking about the FOMOR and she's like I'm taking them out left and right. She says it's easy. It shouldn't be so easy. And Harry says, I didn't have a heart anymore. It couldn't twist. It couldn't break, but it did.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, like
Yeah.
just those moments are so good. We find out that the FOMOR are paying off cops to look the other way when they steal kids and stuff. She's like, there was a
Oh,
servitor
yes,
with
I
like a
remember
kid
this.
in a bag, and the cop just like got paid off in gold bars or whatever. But then she
Mhm.
turned the gold bars into a gun,
Yes.
and the cop like shot him. And so stuff like that is just like, wow, dude, the city has really has
not
really
a first
gotten
law
crazy.
break.
Not a first law break. I agree. I agree. Not. She's not directly tampering with the mind. She's just changing an outside something
Yeah,
to do
that
something
and
else.
first law, like, it's definitely not a fourth law break because it's like a physical illusion.
Yeah.
But I don't think that counts as killing someone with magic, even though she achieved the person's death and wouldn't have been able to without magic.
I think
Mhm.
that is the gray area that she's been living in. I feel like that's the
Because
that's
if
the one
she was
solace she's
willing to
had.
do, like, if she was willing to break the laws of magic, she
would-
wouldn't
yeah.
bother with that illusion.
Exactly.
She'd
It'd be
just
pointless.
take over the dude's mind and be like,
Yeah.
right?
That's true. That's a fair
Yep.
point. That's a fair point. Yeah. Interesting.
Technically correct. The best kind of correct.
The best kind of correct.
Same way, you know,
Wh-
like Harry's
Which
gonna.
book is that from?
I don't think that's from book. One sec. I have to check a Noctua. It might be a sub-press edition that I have to sign for. I'll be back.
Oh, okay. Unboxing here on the episode.
Unboxing. Here we go.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Someone was knocking at the door. It sadly was not Subterranean Press getting shipped
Oh.
by UPS. Curses.
Okay, I
Um,
was gonna say you better do an unboxing here on the
Yeah.
episode.
I would have. I would have.
What's
UPS. The
the book?
I wrote a Ship of Magic, the first live ship traders book.
Oh, okay.
Which the UPS like updates are really annoying because they just say like it's arrived at a facility in Canada, but they don't say which facility in Canada or
Yeah.
when it's expected to arrive.
Mhm.
It's
So,
the
like,
same in the US, man.
Is it a facility 7 minutes from me, or
Right.
is it a
3
facility in
hours?
Toronto?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, Canada's pretty
Right.
big. I don't know if you noticed this.
Yeah.
Yeah. It could be with a moose for all you know.
Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
did you see the bullshit that is the Gentleman Bastards trilogy coming to
Like the
Broken Binding? You have
I
to be a subscriber and you have to have subscribed like months ago to get it.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
mean, I think that's
this
all their editions.
beautiful special edition. Like I would pay like $300 for this set. Like I want it so bad. But you
I
have
think
to
they're
have
just-
subscribed a long time
I think
ago
they're
to
just
get it.
not a big enough press that they could meet demand if they didn't do it this way. Like,
Yeah.
like if they actually just put them on the market, like they would. I mean, it would just sell out in like 4
Yeah.
seconds.
Right.
Mhm.
I want it so bad. I'm like, it looks, I've been waiting for like a hardcover. I mean, there is a hardcover Liza Locke Lamora, but I don't like how it looks. But like, I've been waiting for something like this. And I'm like, I'm pissed that I can't get it. um, okay, what were we talking about? We were, technically correct, the best kind of correct. Do you remember what that's from? We were trying to rack our heads.
Oh, I
Right,
think
right.
it's from a GIF. It's from the GIF. I think from like Futurama or something. I haven't watched Futurama. I just use the GIF all the time.
Is it? I thought it
it-
was from Dresden Files. Do
Yeah,
they
I
not
feel like
say it
it's
in Dresden
yeah.
Files?
I don't, or maybe Dresden is referencing Futurama. But one second,
Oh,
I
okay.
can post GIFs on Twitter and send it to you theoretically. It's from.
Well, let's. Okay, here.
It's this. I'm not sure it's Futurama. I've just seen the GIF, but I just sent it in the Twitter thing. It's that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the old guy in the chair. Huh.
I'm sure editing Spencer will put it up on the screen for everyone watching right
Yep.
now.
Yeah, I
Haha, I just
will.
screwed it. Yeah.
I will. Interesting. Yeah, damn, maybe it is just Futurama, and I thought it was like a Dresden thing. I don't know.
I've been saying like when people are like say like my name going c'est moi all this time, and I didn't realize that was a line Thomas says in White Light. I was doing a Dresden reference this
Oh,
entire time and didn't even realize it, which probably happens more than I'd like to think.
Yep.
that's
Where
funny.
I'm accidentally referencing, and it's just like one of my mannerisms or things I say like has some origin in like someone saying it once in Dresden, but
Right.
who knows? Maybe someone says technically correct, the best kind of correct, referencing
Yeah.
Joe at some point. That's the type of thing Harry would do.
Yeah. Okay, so I have one more Molly note. Molly explains that when Harry was around, things were afraid of him and didn't come out to play. She says, and he's like totally clueless to this. He's like, "What are you talking about?" And she says, "God, Harry, you could find anything in this town, but couldn't even notice the shadow you cast."
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, that's a good quote. I love that so much. I was,
And I think that's one of the reasons she's like doing all the like scary theatrics things is she
Yeah.
knows like without that she just doesn't inspire the fear Harry
Yeah.
does because no fireball.
yeah,
Yeah.
And,
exactly. No burning buildings that are crashing to the ground.
like Harry
Yeah.
provided the fear by accident, which is one of the reasons it was so effective because
Right.
like it was genuine, like the things that made him scary. And Molly's trying to replicate that. And she
Right.
is in fact genuinely scary. So
Mhm.
there you go.
Yeah. What do you guys think about the Fomor? Uh, from
Creepy.
I think they're
from
kind of
this book?
dicks. I know it's a hot
Yeah, they're
take,
dicks.
but they're
and
kind of
creepy.
dicks. I think the more I learn about them, the less I like them. You know?
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
They're just
I-
weird. They're people that have been taken from the surface and brought down to the water and
way
genetically
around.
altered. Or yeah, okay, thank you. Genetically altered to be these, people that can live underwater or have gills or this or that or spit, globs
Yeah.
of whatever. Just weird.
Yeah. It is weird, and I mean, I don't know. I think they're probably like my least favorite villains. Like I remember starting Ghost Story and I hadn't read Bombshells. And so I was like, what are Fomor? Like I don't get it. And at that time I hadn't read any like Lovecraft or anything, so I really
Mhm.
didn't get it. And I'm just like when I first read this book, I was just like, I don't understand what they are. And then even, no spoilers, but going on to like Cold Days and Skin Game, I'm like, I still don't really get it. And I don't think I fully understood them until I got to like Peace Talks and
And
Battlegrounds.
it's kind of like you hear about them a lot. Usually, like the first time you hear about someone, it's because Harry's directly like has a confrontation with them. You hear about them a lot and they're a huge deal, but like Harry doesn't actually directly interact with them
Yeah.
that much
Right.
for like a while. So they're just kind of like this thing in the background that's kind of a bit mysterious. And I feel like they're kind of supposed to be that way. Like you're supposed to be like, wait, what's going on? Are these like, is this actually a worse problem than the people we used to have?
Right.
And to fill in the blanks a little.
Yeah. Also, one thing I noticed when the ghosts would, especially like the Lecter Specters, when they would go into their super scary forms when they were about to muck some stuff up, uh, they seemed kind of Lovecraftian. I don't know if there's any connection between the ghosts and the Fomor, but they seem to have sort of the same vibes going on.
Yeah, they like turned into like a squid and like the just like weird stuff like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think That was probably intentional to fit with the theme of the other like Lovecraftian stuff going on. I don't know if they necessarily have any relation to the Fomor, but I think
Mhm.
it was probably like a style choice on the side of Jim Butcher for sure.
Yeah, I don't know enough about Lovecraft to know if they're really like. There's some things that are obviously Lovecraftian, like
Mhm.
The Outsiders and stuff like that. Fomor, I feel like aesthetically, it's like just they have tentacles. I don't know if they're actually
Right.
Yeah.
Lovecraftian.
Right. So we get to see Nick again. And we see Nick
I
and
love
Fix interact. And Fix like goes to this guy's house and he's like, I'm not here to like rob you or anything. And like he's like, Harry Dresden told me I should come here if I ever needed to, and blah 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 blah. And I was anybody else in this moment hoping so desperately that Fix would later become Nick's like apprentice or something? I'm like, please,
Yeah.
like,
I
please take him in. Like,
I think it's Fitz.
Fitz.
It's
Yeah.
Fitz, yeah,
Fitz,
because it's
yeah.
the same name
FITZ.
as the protagonist of Realm
Yeah,
of the Elderling,
Fitz.
so I always
Mhm.
remember it.
Okay, who's the
Um,
winter night or the summer night?
Fix.
Fix.
Yeah,
Fix
other way
is
around.
okay.
Yep.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he's still good. There's time. But I love the. I know you had it in the notes. I love the like. Wait, you've only saved 7 kids in like all
Yeah.
this time, and it's like, hey, how many kids have you saved?
Right. Yeah.
7's not bad.
Yeah, but I also love it says a lot about Nick, and we just talked about this when we read Side Jobs for the last episode. Because we see Nick in Something of Hope. I forget what the first short story is called. But the one where they save like the little girl from the troll and all that.
Hmm.
We see him in there, and I remember saying, man, I like that we get to see by the end that Nick is a decent guy and you can see what Harry saw in him. And then in this book, we see him again, and again he's rough around the edges, but he's a good dude. And when he says that thing about the 7 kids, Nick goes, or because he asks like 7 kids in 30 years.
Yeah.
And the fact that he has the kids like up on his wall and like uses that as a reminder for why he does this work. And
Mhm.
then he says 7 is enough.
Yep.
And it's just like, oh man,
Yeah.
like what a good dude. I am really surprised we have not seen more of Nick in the series. Like I am super, super surprised we have not seen more of him. Like
Yeah, I
it
think
seems like
probably
such an
Harry.
obvious thing.
I think Harry doesn't like bringing people into like magic things when
Yeah.
he knows it puts them in danger, and
Mhm.
like the people
Nick
he
also
brings into
seems like
danger
he doesn't want to be on
Yeah,
that side.
that as well. And also, I think like from Harry's perspective, this sounds kind of callous, but like, what would he like if Harry's gonna bring someone in? They have to clearly like increase the chance of survival, and like, what skill set
Right.
would Nick bring
Yeah,
that would be useful enough for Harry to justify risking his life?
I guess I just mean that I'm surprised that we haven't seen Harry drop by. Like, even if it's just
Yeah.
for like information, like, hey, like, what do you think about this case or whatever? Or like, I mean, Harry doesn't really like catch up with a whole lot of people, but I'm just really surprised that he hasn't run into him at some point. And I wish he would, because I would love more information about their like friendship or relationship or whatever. And I think it would be a great like mini series to have Harry and Nick on like cases, like much smaller books, like little
The Nick
books.
Files.
Yeah,
Nick.
that'd be so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Nick. I'd be happy if there was more Nick, but I get why like Harry just doesn't want him to be involved, and Nick doesn't want to be involved with Harry. It's
Yeah.
like there's the other dude, like the paramedic, who just
Right.
doesn't want to deal with Harry, who's
Mhm.
like, ain't nobody got time for this. I remember on my last read of Peace Talks, like I wrote down the quote, and Harry,
Yeah.
and I feel like Nick has the same attitude as this
Mhm.
guy. I'm gonna
Yeah.
find it while you guys talk about
Yeah.
stuff.
And I
Okay.
also think that Nick and Harry have a lot in common in that they both choose to live in squalor and live like really poor, miserly lives. to do the work that they think is important. Because like Nick's only saved 7 kids in 30 years, and he lives on a cot in his office.
Yeah.
Right.
And Harry has said that he could use his magic to make a lot more money and
Yeah.
not live the way that he's lived.
That's
And
true.
and there's probably like something there. And we've gotten a lot of look into how Harry has dealt with his mentor, Ebenezer McCoy.
Mhm.
So like, I feel like McCoy has had probably a larger impact on Harry's life in the story. But at the same time, I definitely think that there's some stuff that Harry's taken from his time with Nick that hasn't been fully explored yet.
Yeah, that is such a great comparison. I didn't even think about that, where like Nick is kind of living in a very similar way to how Harry is. That's really cool. I hadn't noticed that. We also get we also get Fitz and Father Forthill interacting. And I just love
Oh, the
this.
priest jokes.
Oh
Yep.
my God. I love Fort Hill so much. He's like, they like sit down in his room or office or whatever. And he's like, so would you like to get the priest and young boy jokes
Yeah.
out of the way
Yeah.
first? And Fitz is like, no, Father, I don't want to do that. And he's like, okay, I just wouldn't want to deprive you of that enjoyment.
Yep.
And Fitz is like, okay.
Not what he was expecting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe
I-
Fort Hill made some assumptions because those are the kinds of things that I think that Harry would want to say.
Right. Oh, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Especially if he knew that Harry was in the room with him.
yeah, definitely. And did you guys notice? I think I kind of noticed it before, but I definitely noticed it more on this read. How similar Fitz and Harry are.
Oh, totally.
Like Fitz like could easily be a young Harry if he had not either gone to like Justin Dumorn or if he had not gone to like Ebenezer. Harry could be in that same position where there's like a charismatic leader who knows magic and is like taking him in for like the wrong reasons.
Mhm.
And I mean, I guess
I mean,
that
isn't that what Justin did?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know how that sounds, but I mean, in the situation where it's like, I don't know, like actively like being in a gang kind of thing, like actively like harming people. I could see that very easily being Harry Dresden. And Fitz's like sense of humor and the way that he respects people, but he also has like this really quick wit that is just like a whiplash kind of thing. Like
Yep.
reminded me so much of Harry.
I feel like Jim really likes having characters who are like, this is the type of person Harry could be in a different circumstance.
Right.
One of which is talked about in an interview between me and Jim Butcher.
Oh, cool.
Anyway, I have found the line. This is Nick is like Lamar. This is a quote from the future book, but it's not a spoiler. Lamar, I said, long time no see. That's because I don't want nothing to do with you and your weird shit, Dresden, Lamar said. Lamar is one of the more sensible people I know.
Yep.
That's great. Yeah, I love Lamar whenever he pops up.
Yeah, and Nick, I feel like, is kind of in the same boat. And
Yeah.
Fitz isn't, but if he was wiser, he would be. But yeah, like Fitz definitely is kind of a similar type. And I mean, that's probably why Harry goes off and like talks with him a bunch, because Fitz reminds him of himself.
Right.
Which is one of the reasons he's in the book for as long as he is.
I have a quick quote real quick. What? Geez, wow, that was stupid.
There you go. Say that 5 times fast.
Quick quote, real quick.
Quick quote, real quick.
I have a quick quote here. In the end, there was only one of two things my domain could possibly be: either a Burger King restaurant or my old apartment. And he's talking about like, he's like, oh, I could build like this spiritual like house to live in, like Bob does. And he's like, it would be a Burger King, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? Like, I love that so much. But then Harry, we get one of the flashbacks, and this is Harry recounting the story of him robbing a gas station.
That
and
was
meeting He
hilarious.
who walks
Bang!
behind.
Yes.
Yeah, bang,
Yep.
and then he like actually explodes the bottles.
The precursor to Forzare.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah,
And
what any thoughts on this? I think it was just really cool to finally see this play out and just like how scary that moment was where you got this machine in the corner that's going, run, run,
Yeah.
run.
Mhm.
It's like, what is happening? And then surely enough, Harry ends up does he see the walker in the reflection or something?
I think he
Something.
did,
does,
yeah.
yeah.
He who walks behind.
Yeah, he couldn't look at it directly. Um, Also, I think it was really interesting how the walker was basically toying with him. Like the walker could have broken him into a million pieces, like
At
with
any second. Yeah.
yeah, but he chose not to.
Yeah.
And then I also feel really bad for the cashier because like that guy just like wanted to get high, do his job, go
Yeah.
home.
It's like the Shaggy, you know.
Yeah,
Reminds me of
Shaggy.
Yeah.
I also just think it's funny that if you think of Harry Dresden's voice canonically as James Marsters' voice,
Mhm.
then from Leia's perspective, she's listening to a Dresden audiobook because when Dresden is saying this thing to him, he's saying it like the exact perspective of a Dresden Files. So
Mhm.
Leia has listened to a James Marsters audiobook, basically.
Nice.
Man,
Wow.
that
All right.
came way out of left field,
Yeah.
but I'm so
Yeah.
glad you said it.
Yeah. Yeah. You just made me think a lot right there. I like it.
We got a little meta, you know?
Yeah.
That's all right though.
Sometimes-
I like a little
sometimes-
meta.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, anything about the robbery or he who walks behind, did you guys glean any like critical information from that or anything?
Well, critical. I mean, yeah, like we get to see kind of a walker and we get to hear him talk and see some of that. But also critical is that Harry bested the walker,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and that is a huge. Well, okay, sure, maybe bested, but to Harry, he bested the walker, right?
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
that. I
Right,
know
in the
that
moment.
in the moment carried on with Harry, and it was a scary thing, but he used his wit to do this.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen in any where it was confirmed that the walker was in on the plan, you know, like, oh, he blew me up,
Mhm.
blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. I don't know if
Yeah.
that's true or not. Um,
Yeah,
but
I think that I I mean, I don't have any like theory around it or anything, but I would be interested to see why, like Jake said, or wait, who said that you said that the walker could have killed him at any second.
Mhm.
And it's like, so why didn't he? Like, I'm so curious to find out
yeah.
more about the walkers. Like, do they have some sort
Well,
of plan for
the
Harry?
book,
Like,
the book is supposed to make you think, the walkers are also just an entity that likes to gloat and likes to have hold power over another.
right.
Um, and based on the book, Jake, that's all I'm saying, just based on the book. Okay, that's all. Based on the book, he got a little overzealous and he didn't really expect Harry to do anything that could endanger him. And Harry did, because the walker didn't know where he was standing.
He blew up the gas pump,
Blew
right?
up, yeah. The
Yeah.
walker was standing like next to a gas pump, and
their
Harry's
one
like, "You don't
weakness.
know where you're standing."
Gas
Yeah,
pumps.
I mean, I don't think the walker would understand like how a gas
No,
station
exactly.
works.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I would preface that walkers are on a similar power level as fairy queens, and that probably if he wanted to tank a gas pump explosion, he could have.
Hmm.
That's
Um,
fair.
Yeah,
That's
but
fair.
we just, I mean, where are you basing the power level though? Like you don't know for
well,
sure that they are as powerful
well,
as Mab, right? Or more or less.
well,
Well,
if you go read
Harry
Cold
hasn't
Days,
killed one yet.
No,
well,
but
no, but like, so okay, you can edit this out. I don't think there's Walker in Cold Days, and Harry feels its power, and he's like maybe not bigger than Mab, but deeper than Mab's power, and directly
yeah, but there's
compares
got
it
to be
past that.
different levels of walkers though. There's not just one power level for each and every walker that there ever was,
Well, like
right?
there's like 3 of them, maybe 4.
I don't know.
Like,
So here, I would
he walks-
say,
no.
I man, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to say what happened at the gas pump because I think if we take all of these things that we're all saying and combine them together, it's like Harry was clever in the moment and found a way to get away. But like V said, he could the walker could have killed him at any time. And so it's kind of like if he could have killed him in the gas station and that was like his purpose or he was sent there to do that, then why didn't he? Why did he wait until why did he like chase him around the gas
Yeah.
station and then wait until Harry was outside? And so when Harry exploded the gas pump thinking that he killed the walker, which we know from later books
No, he
that he
didn't.
didn't,
Definitely did not.
but
Yeah.
it's like the walker must have some big plan in mind where he just wanted to put the fear of God in Harry when
And
he
see what
was
he-
younger, and then try to manipulate him later
Yeah.
on.
I guess in fair, it is also possible. Like, I guess Gabe, your theory would be like, this obviously isn't the actual entity of the Walker. This is like an ectoplasm, like representation of the Walker that's been allowed into the world by Justin
That's fair.
DeMorn.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that representation can be destroyed by gas pumps exploding. And he just got cocky and was just,
Yeah, I
doing
would
his
think.
thing.
I think
I would
that's
think
more
that
than
that's
fair,
probably. Yeah, I would think that's
That's a
probably what
okay.
it was, right?
That's a
Like,
reasonable interpretation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also
I
I
don't
think
know
this
if-
entire scenario is a lot like the scenarios that Harry had gone through with Justin before. So like basically Harry is being compelled to do magic, he's not performing, so he gets hit, and then he's able to do the magic later on when he's scared and or feels like he's in danger. I feel like sort of the same thing has played out because at first Harry's just trying to rob the gas station, and then the Walker's all like, "Oh, I would have expected more from a student of Justin DeMorin's," and then he
Mm.
beats up Harry a bit, and then
Right.
Harry ends up blowing up the gas station.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
also
original-
possible
Have
that
we-
like the Walker wanted to manipulate him more and was not expecting the explosion.
So
Like he
I
wanted to.
yeah, I feel like there's two ways because Harry obviously has the falling out with DeMorn, runs away. That's why we're at the gas station. That's why he's trying to rob it.
Mhm.
So now, did DeMorn send the Walker, or did the Walker say, "Oh shit, I better get out here because DeMorn failed"?
Well, the Walker had to be let into the world.
Yeah,
Right,
Someone
no,
has
yeah.
to open the outer gates, and presumably
Initially.
DeMorn did.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, he
Um,
definitely opened it for him, but was
But
it
I think-
because DeMorn said go
Mhm.
after this boy, or was it because he said I lost the boy?
I think the question here is, once Dumorn died,
Yeah.
is the Walker released from his contract and then
Mm.
was acting on his own volition, or was he still beholden to that contract with
Oh.
Dumorn?
Well, isn't at this point DeMorin not
DeMorn's-
dead
he's
yet?
Yeah,
still
I don't think
chilling.
DeMorn's
He's big
dead.
chilling still. at
Yeah,
this
he's
Yeah,
point.
not
because
dead
Harry
by
goes
this time.
back after this.
Yeah.
Like, and also supposedly Harry talks to like Leah, and she
Yeah.
gives him
Yep.
some like placebo thing to make
Yeah,
him feel
power,
like
He
yeah,
makes a
to-
bargain with her, and
yes,
this is why
yes.
he owes her a favor. In like the start of the books, he's like, "I'll owe you these favors if you give me like the strength to
Enough
defeat
power
Justin
to go
DeMorn."
defeat
And she
Justin.
just placebo affects him, but
Yeah,
it works.
she's
Wait,
like,
does
"Hey,
she?
now
Wait,
having
wait,
power.
Yeah.
where does it say that she placeboed him? I
Well,
don't remember this
I think
at all.
it says she just like heard him and like said that this would give him the power, and he was like, "Well, that was the bargain, so I guess it does," and went and defeated Justin DeMorn.
Yeah,
Pretty sure it
but
says-
I also don't think that we've seen that scene, or at least I haven't seen that scene.
No,
I
just
remember
that
Harry
was
He's
gonna
talking
talks
be-
to
about it.
her.
It
That-
might not
that-
be.
That was gonna
It's-
be that was gonna be my next question. Is we have not seen the scene, the actual battle scene between
No.
Harry and
No.
Dumorn yet, right?
No.
We saw it in
No.
the TV
All we
show.
saw
So
was-
parts of
which
it
all
are
we
in one
saw
of the
was
comic books.
The burning, like at least in the books, is the burning down of the house. That's all we know.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And Justin
know-
supposedly died in that burning house.
Yeah.
And there's
BED
scenes from
death.
I think Warcry, one of the Dresden Files comic books, where it does show the showdown with DeMorn
Mm,
and Harry,
Oh.
but it's only snippets. It's not the entire thing.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I would love to see a ghost story style like memory of the battle
Be
with
cool.
Dumorn. We get to see it in the TV show, and it's really funny because I don't know, 40-something-year-old Paul Blackthorne is fighting Justin Dumorn is trying to be like a teenager. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
But
Yep.
but yeah, I would love to see the actual battle play out. Because I think
Mhm.
that'd be really interesting. I don't know if it's something that would be like, oh, it would answer so many questions or whatever, but I think it would be really interesting.
But yeah,
to
there's
see.
probably some words said or something that is,
Yeah.
that we haven't seen yet that may
Mhm.
may be important.
Yeah,
And there's also probably a reason we haven't seen it
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah. Okay,
Not too much.
let's go on to talk about Harry going into Bob's skull.
Oh,
Yes.
Bob, my guy,
Bob.
love Bob, dude.
Yeah.
God, I love Bob.
I
He's
love
got a
that.
mansion.
I love that Bob looks like James Dean.
Yeah.
He's got like the leather
Yeah.
jacket and like
Yeah.
the 50s hairdo and stuff. And I'm like, Bob would look like that.
Yep. Not
Yeah.
only that, but he has the perpetual turkey dinner on the table.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Because
Perpetual
of,
Thanksgiving because the Butters.
yeah, because he got
Yeah, you gotta go to Butters to his parents' Thanksgiving.
yeah.
Uh,
that was funny that because this is what I've always thought about.
And he's also
I-
listening to Butter's mom.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm like, I think it's so funny that he was like, yeah, Butters let me do a ride along. He wrote out like this whole contract. It was very thorough. And the whole time I've been reading the series, I'm like, why hasn't Harry done something like this with Bob? Like, obviously, Harry knows that it's very scary and there's a lot of ways to like let a spirit into you that
Loopholes,
isn't
yep.
like good. But I think Harry could figure out a contract, and I'm always like, I don't know. Bob is very like ambivalent towards or Harry is very ambivalent towards Bob. I'm more on the side of like, if I was Harry, like this spirit is basically like one of my best friends. And so it's like,
Mhm.
why would I not want to like take him out for a ride
Yeah.
every now and then?
Well,
Yep.
I
I
just
mean,
think
in
it's
the
funny that
first couple
Butters did.
books, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, in the first couple books, Bob would take Mister out for a ride.
Yeah. That's
And
true.
I mean, I can definitely see Harry like not being comfortable even with like a 20-page contract of letting Bob in his head.
Oh yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Also,
for sure.
is Harry gonna
But
write
Butters
a 20-page
doesn't really
contract?
understand what
No,
Bob is
he's
at
not.
this point.
Yeah. And exactly.
also-
Butters has got like kind of a different, like we hear Bob
Outlook.
saying,
Yeah.
yes, in future books, like you're the this of that magic, and Butters, just knows kind of the ins and outs, right?
Right.
And so I feel like if Butters was the one to write up a contract and be comfortable, I mean, he'd be the guy.
Butters knows enough to know how to do the contract. I think he doesn't know enough to understand how afraid he should be of
Right.
Yeah.
that contract.
Yeah.
Also, like Harry Dresden, contract lawyer.
No,
No way. No way.
That's
no,
true.
he can barely
but-
get payment up front. Like,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
also,
exactly.
Harry is, I think, a lot more paranoid about than Butters. I mean, I don't think
Mhm.
he's a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
more paranoid
Oh,
about Butters
totally.
of taking Bob into the
Totally.
field, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like he's a
Because
lot
if
more
you
worried
lose
That's a
Bob,
great point.
that's
Yeah.
real bad.
because
Real
if
Yeah.
someone else gets Bob,
It's game
Like,
over.
I mean,
pretty
Bob
much,
has
yeah.
been stolen before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it
And
took
it
a
was
miracle to
bad.
get him back.
It was bad.
Really
it
bad.
almost led to Cowell doing the Dark Hallow
Yeah.
and becoming a vengeful god. So
Yes.
yeah,
I've thought about that so many times. I'm like, I understand why Butters has to have Bob with him, but like, dude, you're running a huge risk. Like you are running a absolutely massive risk.
Yep.
also if he has the
Um,
necessity, Harry doesn't, because Harry can do a lot more on his own.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
And
that's
Butters
that's
can't.
the issue is that Butters needs Bob because without Bob, Butters can't do the things he has to. Whereas
Yeah.
Harry can do everything he needs to without Bob. Bob's just a, hey, I saw this today. Can you help me figure this out before I leave again? Sure
Right.
thing. Sure
Yeah.
thing, boss.
Yeah, I think Butters, it was really cool to see in this book just how much Butters knows about magical theory. Like he's not able to actually do the magic, but he's so smart with like his brain just works in such a specific way that
Yeah.
he's
Mhm.
able to figure out all of this magical
Comprehend. Yep.
theory. I'm like, man, that is so cool.
He's
Yeah.
a lot smarter than Harry at studying.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Harry's kind of like, oh, I have Bob, so like when I need questions answered, I'll ask him. Butters is like, I have Bob. Time to learn about as much about magic as I
Yeah.
possibly
Time to
can.
study for years and years and make
Yeah.
sure I remember everything.
right.
Mhm.
Right.
I mean, he is a doctor. Like that's basically med school.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a
Yeah.
doctor, not a
Butters' brain has got to
Not
work
Batman.
much better with with theories and notes than Harry's does. Harry's is just like Hulk smash. And
Right.
Butters is
Fire.
like,
Exactly.
yeah, fire.
Exactly.
Butters is like, all right, let's think this through. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I think Harry might also be aware of like, because probably Butters is probably asking Bob more about theory. Harry has probably run into just like how little Bob understands morality.
Yeah.
That is like a little bit frightening.
Oh, yeah.
Like I like say that do you guys know like the trolley problem? Like,
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Bob is one of the creatures in the Dresden universe that would just not get it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Bob would just be like,
He's like, pull both levers. Like,
he-
kill them all.
He'd just be like, I don't. It'd be like, so what's the right thing to do? And he'd be like, I mean, what direction do I want to go with the train? Like,
Yeah.
Or it's like which people are more attractive
I
tied
don't,
down
yeah.
to
I
the
guess, I don't know.
tracks.
What is the trolley problem? I haven't heard this.
Oh, so the trolley problem, this is the main version. The 1st
Mhm.
one is you're on a trolley that's going on a track and there's 5 people tied down to it. You can switch the track.
splits.
Yeah, the
Okay.
track splits. You can switch the track and it will go to another track that only runs over one person. Do you switch the track? You can answer that, but most people are like, yeah, I mean, I would switch the track. And then the follow-up question is like, okay, so there's a trolley, you're not driving it, you're on a bridge, and there's a trolley that's going on a track and is about to run over 5 people. There's like a huge dude on the bridge. And you, being an expert in trolleys, know that if you push the dude on the track, it will cause the trolley to stop killing one person instead of 5. Do you push the person onto the track? And most people are like, no. And it's like, okay,
That is
what's
crazy
the
morbid.
meaningful moral distinction? And I don't
Yeah.
like most
Yeah.
people have those two intuitions. I
Yeah.
don't know if you do, but those are the intuitions I have. Like I would
It's-
switch the track and I would
it's-
not push the dude.
Right.
No, I get it. It's 1 life or 4 lives, right? Or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah,
It's
I
like
understand.
the one or the many kind of question.
So it's a
And
shitty thing to answer though, you know, because no matter
Yeah.
what, you're still kind of like, oh, you're gonna kill somebody. Like,
yeah,
Mhm.
it sucks. And then it becomes even more complicated when you're like the one person on one of the tracks is like your mom or something.
yeah, or like
I
a
remember-
doctor
then-
curing
and then-
cancer.
Yeah, and
I
then
once
the
had a
five
everybody
are
teacher
just-
in a
yeah.
Phil class that was like, come up with your own versions of the trolley problem and like be as creative as possible. And I came up with one absolutely wild one. I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
Where it was like a train's going one way and it's like it's on a disaster relief program and it's going to bring like resources for like a natural disaster and like there was stuff like that anyway. But Bob wouldn't get it. Bob wouldn't get it.
No, I think that's fair. I understand that. Bob couldn't comprehend why that would be
Yeah,
a tough choice.
right.
Like he'd just be like, who cares?
Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
be like, all right, okay,
Mab
1
wouldn't
versus
get
4.
the
That's easy.
intuitions humans have, but Mab
Yeah.
would have answers. Mab would
Oh,
be
totally.
like, Mab would be like, oh yeah, you push the person on the track.
Yeah,
Like
I would
Mab
do
wouldn't
this
understand the
because of
difference
this.
between the two. Mab
Yeah.
would be like, those are the same thing. Like,
Right,
yeah.
yeah.
What does it
one
matter?
human is the same as another human.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, wouldn't make a difference.
By the way, then there's with people are really like, no, I'd push the person on the track. There's the further version of it. That's kind of the same thing, but no longer involves trolleys. And it's the triage problem, which is you got 5 people are dying of organ failure, and it's all different organs. And you happen to know you have a friend who's just like in another building, and he's a match with all 5 of these people. So do you go kill him and steal his organs and save the other 5? And almost
Nope.
everyone's like, no, you obviously can't do that. But it's
That's
killing
intense.
one. Yeah.
yeah.
That's intense.
Ooh, that's a
A
tough
Mab would do it.
Jeez,
Mab
yeah.
would totally kill that person.
Yeah.
Right. Jeez.
If it was like Mab, you have 6 soldiers of winter.
Yeah.
5 of them are dying of organ failure, and one dude has compatible organs with all of
Be like,
them.
she
But
just
she'd
snap
be
her
like,
finger. Kill
she'd
him.
like
Kill him.
before you finish the question, she'd be like, before you give the hypothetical, because usually people are like, where's this going? She'd be like, I'd kill him and I'd use his organs to save the other 5.
Well, she would have already done it. She would have snapped her fingers and had his organs in their bodies already.
She'd be like, yeah, this happened actually.
Yeah.
It's actually happened a few times.
Yeah.
This is
Like
we
this,
do.
this
Is our
isn't a
policy.
first. Like that's
Like,
just
this-
how
yes.
Winder works.
It's
Thank
like,
you
yes,
very
this
much.
is our policy to do this. You actually don't need 5. We do it if there's 2. Um,
Jesus Christ. You guys
right, yeah,
keep talking about the trolley. I'll be right back. 1 second.
All
Give me
right.
half a
I've run out of
second.
things to say about the trolley problem.
Yeah, I was
Curse.
gonna say we talked about enough of it. I feel like.
But I think it's kind of fun to think about like how would fictional characters answer these, because
Yeah.
especially like some of the fantasy ones who are like
Well,
have
how do you
very
think
weird
You may have
moralities.
already the original trolley problem. Harry would obviously answer 1, right, versus the 4.
The first one almost everyone does.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
like
What about the
I-
second one?
I
You
don't
think Harry
think-
would push.
So I don't think Harry would push the dude.
Yeah,
I actually think Harry is pretty on the extreme end of not pushing
of
the
like
dude.
instead I wouldn't push him, but I would stop time to
No,
stop
I mean
this
the extreme
trolley.
end of like, so if we're going back to like Phil class, it'd be like, this is like the deontology side, where
Yeah.
it's like, are you going to do the bad thing to achieve the good results?
Mhm.
Harry does not do the bad thing to achieve the good
Yeah,
result. He's actually
true.
pretty extreme on that end. It's almost what makes him scary, I think. I should
Yeah.
talk to Jim about this. This is
Yeah.
when you watch the interview,
Cool.
you're gonna be like, so that's why he's thinking about that lately.
Mhm.
Because Harry is very much like on the idealist side, where
Yeah.
like if it was like, Harry, you have to kill like these 3 people to save the world,
Yeah,
like, and everyone was telling him like, yes, you have to. I don't know if he would. He'd be like, no, I'm
Yeah.
gonna save the 3 people.
well, he certainly kill himself to save the world.
Yeah, but I don't know if he'd kill someone
Yeah.
else. So I think he's very extreme on the side of would not push the person off to stop the trolley.
Yeah.
Now he'd be like, I'd use magic to stop the trolley. But if we're like,
Yeah.
you can't use magic, you have the
If,
thorn
yeah, if
manacles.
you're stuck with only this route of
Yeah,
operation,
you have the
can't do
thorn
anything
manacles.
else. Yeah,
So, and you are not heavy enough to stop the train. So you
yeah,
can't jump on yourself,
yeah.
so
If you
don't even think
jump,
about it.
it's not gonna work. All right.
Yeah, then just you and the 5 people that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, that's pretty I get why that's a thing, the trolley problem.
Mhm.
but it's also just fucking morbid,
Oh yeah.
you know?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Like really morbid.
I mean,
think
it's
about.
really just used to make people think
No,
about
yeah,
like what
and-
drives their
Yep,
morality.
and I totally
Yeah.
get that part of it. But it's been a while since somebody's brought up an issue like that to me where I'm like, all right, okay, I really need to think about, what my choice is, like,
Mhm.
or I guess in the sense of killing people.
I mean,
It's like I don't think about that often.
and fortunately, we don't have to make actual choices like this. Harry does.
That's right.
Harry,
yeah.
this would be a
No,
much
it's
more
all,
relatable
It's all
problem to
fictional.
Harry.
I
Yeah.
get that. It's all fictional.
But I'm glad I'm in a position in life where I do not have to make moral choices like
Yeah.
this.
yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
I would like to keep them hypothetical, please.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Spencer's
Okay.
back. I feel like we've gone through most of your notes. What do we have to talk to?
Yeah.
About?
Yeah. Are we done with
Yes.
Yeah.
killing
We
people on
covered
train
the
tracks?
killing
Okay.
people on train tracks thing. yeah.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So I guess the last thing before we go into like the definitive end of the book is Butters and Daniel going in as wardens to confront Aristides or
Yeah.
whatever his name is.
Yeah, that's his name.
Mhm.
So we, I feel like this is kind of the book where we really get to see a lot of different kinds of magic. We, like I said, with Molly's magic and Mort's magic, they're very different than anything that Harry does. And then we see Aristides, and what he's able to do is maybe bring in mass from the Never Never or something, but he's able to increase his strength. He's able
Yeah,
to
and his
increase his
speed.
speed.
It's like a speed hack. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he doesn't like throw spells around. He uses his body like a boxer and uses magic to like move quicker.
Which I'm gonna guess he's gonna run into if someone did that and tried to do it for an extended period of time, they would screw up their joints. Because I just don't
Yeah.
think I think the way he's doing it is probably like a short-term thing, which is
Right.
probably
Totally.
why you don't see other
In
wizards
random
do it. Like
bursts, yeah.
this is why you don't see Ebenezer doing this, because if you're
Yeah.
gonna live to 400, like your joints are not meant to function at that speed.
Yeah,
Mhm.
or that
Um,
weight. Like it
But
just physically is
but
not possible.
wizards bodies heal better than other people's.
That's true.
That
They
is
do
true.
heal over time better than others.
Yeah,
That
right.
But
is
it's
true.
not instantaneous.
Right.
It takes a while.
But yeah, I mean he's kind of a dick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there's even a
Like-
scene when Harry's talking to Fitz and he's like, this guy's a hack. Like
Mhm.
he's not some all powerful god. He's just
Right.
using a little bit of speed in this. Like he is not that strong. Like
Harry's
Yeah.
like, if
he's
I
a
was
one
like
trick pony.
Harry's like, if I was alive and fighting this dude as
Yeah.
not a ghost, like I wouldn't even write about it in my journal after
Yeah.
I killed
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't even get a short story out of this. Like
Right.
I'd just be like, this dude's annoying.
Yep.
Poor Zare. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
probably actually the dude would run at him and he would just bring up the shield and the dude would crash into it and just
Yeah,
like,
and then
be
the guy would
unconscious.
Right.
get knocked out and be like, all right, that was easy.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
Harry would be like, yeah, don't do that. Or be like, let me introduce you to the White Council.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Mhm.
The
also,
real
I
one.
think the funniest part about this, and it's funny in kind of a morbid way, but I like irony, is that the way he like figures out they're lying is actually valid. He's like, "Where are the swords?" And they
Yeah.
don't have
Yep.
swords.
Yep.
But obviously, they can't be like, "Well,
We left
Warden
him on
Lu-"
the train because
They can't be like, "Well, Warden Lucio actually made them."
I
and she
know.
got body swapped by Corpse Taker.
I was
Mhm.
like, there's a
Yeah.
legitimate reason why
Yeah.
they wouldn't have
Yeah.
swords, but Butters doesn't know that. And so
Yeah.
even Harry's like, no, like,
Like
Yeah.
I could have
"Ah."
prepared them for this.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. It was just the fact that like Butters hesitated that tipped him off and he just like went at them.
And I think Harry being like, this guy's kind of lame, and then him being this big of a deal is another way of really focusing on like how much they relied on Harry. Like
Yeah.
Harry doesn't think about how much less capable, but like this dude would be like not even a side quest. This dude would be an afterthought for Harry.
well,
We
Mhm.
wouldn't even tell anyone about it because he'd just be like, yeah, I went to the grocery store. On the way home, I ended up fighting this dude who made himself a little faster. Something was wrong
Yeah,
with the blue
that's
beetle,
pretty
so I
much-
took it to Mike's. And for
Yep.
this dude, it's like, for everyone else, like for Daniel and Butters, it's like, why do I hear boss music?
yeah,
Like-
exactly. Right. Like
And
that
it makes you, I think, understand like how desperate they are when like the thing that's the side quest on the way to the side quest for Harry is like beyond their capacity.
right.
in terms of,
Yeah.
like how much power they have.
For sure. Yeah. It's crazy the difference. Like when you look at just the perspective shift. It almost goes completely like the other side where, like you said, for Harry, he would see this guy and just like swat him out of the way. And then from Fitz's perspective, this is someone that has tormented him every single
Yeah,
day.
he's literally been
And
his torturer,
yeah,
the
and
D1
has
person.
like full control over him and all of the other boys.
Yeah.
They're reliant on him for like
Yep.
food and other like living
Yeah,
necessities.
it's like his little brothers, like his
Yeah.
little family, you know?
And yeah, it's so crazy to see, like, man, if Harry was just there, like if he could just be there for a second, he could squash this guy. But instead, he has to watch all of these other people who don't have power
Mhm.
to be able to interact with him.
Yep.
Also, do you guys think that we'll see Fitz again in a future book? Do you
I
think
do.
he's a character that comes back?
Jim's pretty lazy. I don't think he would have written him if he wasn't going to come back at some
Yeah.
point.
That's true.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I would probably I mean, I would hope. I hope to
Like,
see Fitz because I
that's
really
Jim-
like Fitz.
That's Jim's default answer when people are like, "Are we going to see this person again?"
I've
He's
heard
like,
him say that. Yeah,
"It's like I don't really want to write someone and then only use them once." Like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
just
Mhm.
sounds
That-
like a lot of work.
that's how we know that the Sells family is coming back. He's confirmed
Mm.
that I forget what the wife's name was, but her and the two kids, they're
Mhm.
gonna come back closer to the big apocalyptic trilogy.
Mm.
And he's also confirmed that
go.
Has he conferred upon you the knowledge that is a confirmation of?
yeah
Yeah.
that Faith Astor is coming back. She's going to be the one that kicks off the big
Yeah.
apocalyptic trilogy.
Mhm.
So I'm excited to see what he does with that.
And I
But-
tried to convince him that epilogues from non-Harry point of views is a good idea. So we'll see if we get that.
Ooh, that would be cool. I would
Because
like
Codex Alera has epilogues from like point of views you don't normally get for like the
Mhm.
rest of the series, and they're so good.
Mhm.
that. Nice.
And I'm like, you could do it for the big apocalyptic trilogy. And his response was like, yeah, I could really fuck with people, actually.
That's great. So I loved Fix's love for the other guys versus Aristides' will. And Aristides he's on the ground and he's broken and he's like, "No, I command you, come back." And Fix just looks at them and he's like, "Come on, let's get out of here."
Yep. Yep.
And Harry like saw this as like a battle of wills, but on a very different level than
Yeah.
the magical. And I don't know. I loved the end here where Harry is like hyping Fitz up to like take on Aristides, and he doesn't want to do it. He's like being not like a coward. Well, I don't know. He's like, dude, he's gonna crush me. And Harry's like, you have to do it. You're gonna remember this moment as the
Yeah.
man you will be for the rest of your life. And so
Mhm.
he goes back and like faces him. And I love this quip here where Aristides is like, "You brought these people in to like disrupt our family." And he's like, "Family, right? We're like the Simpsons around here." And Harry says, "Personally, I would have gone with the Waltons, but I like the cut of the kid's jib."
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's so great.
Yep.
Because Harry was
Um,
extremely annoyed that he couldn't sass people as a
Right,
ghost. This was
yeah.
we're reading this and we're like, it's frustrating that he can't fireball people.
Right.
And
Oh,
Harry's
yeah.
kind of also frustrated he can't fireball people, but really it's the lack of being able to sass people that's tough. I mean,
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on closer to the end. We have the home monologue where Harry is kind of recounting where he's trying to call all the ghosts back to Morty's
Yeah.
who like went away. And he's kind of going through this whole thing where he's putting this memory together, and it just ends with like the idea of home. And like I don't know if I want to like read the whole thing because it made me tear up pretty good when I was listening to it.
Mhm.
But I just loved like him recounting like
is that the
him
hardcover? What page is it on?
349.
Feel it open right now. I got my hardcover here.
He's talking about the like his shelves of books and like stacked layers of paperback, the scent of wood smoke from his
No.
fireplace,
Mhm.
fresh coffee in a cup, and just like all these things that makes him think of home. The solid warmth of my dog Mouse, his heavy head pillowed on my
Mhm.
leg while I read a book, and the softness of Mister's fur as he came by and gently batted my book away with his paw until I paused to give him his due share of attention. Um, he talks about
Yeah.
like Molly like diligently working on like her studies and practicing and whatnot, and like just this house where he had all of these memories of these things, pulling warm covers up over
Yeah.
me as I went to bed.
Of
Of
listening to
Mhm.
thunderstorms, complete with flickering lightning, pounding rain, and howling wind, and of the simple, secure pleasure of knowing that I was safe and warm while the elements raged outside. Dude can write.
dude,
Mhm.
Like, dude
that's
can write.
yes, dude, that is my favorite part of this whole thing, the part that you just read, because like I don't know, I've had those moments where like I'm like laying in bed and it's just like pounding rain outside or something.
Mhm.
And there's just like a sense of security knowing that there's like a wall between you and like everything going on outside.
Mhm.
And then there's also like the sense of security of like maybe you have like a really bad day or a lot of like things going wrong in your life, but you get home from work and come home and it's like your safe haven. And I feel like that is what Butcher was kind of conveying in this whole thing. And he ends the whole monologue is so good. It's like probably my favorite part of the book. Um he said, I remember walking with confidence in pitch darkness because I knew every step that would take me safely through my rooms. And then he says, home. I invoked the memory of home. God, it's such a it ties such a good bow on the whole monologue. And I'm just like, damn, like every now and then Jim Butcher just pulls this amazing prose out of his ass. And
Mhm.
Yep.
I think the prose in the Dresden Files is really underrated because most of it is very pulpy, very like, I went and did this, and then I went and did this, and then I attacked this thing. And it's kind of like more like a thrill ride, like a fast paced adventure. Um, and then every now and then he'll do something like this, like in White Knight, he had a whole monologue about the different types of fear that you can experience, and or pain. It was the different types of pain that you experience throughout your life. And
Mhm.
it's another one of those moments where I tear up every single time I read it, no matter how many times I've read it. Just every now and then he pulls out these amazing, amazing monologues.
He truly goes hard sometimes.
Yeah.
Like that style just doesn't fit Harry Dresden like a lot of the time. But when Harry's being introspective, it does fit Harry. Like
Mhm.
this is not just really good. This is exactly how Harry like deconstructing the feeling of home. And because like, we might have the feeling of that, but I don't know if I could distinctly identify all the elements. But his Harry, a huge aspect of what he's good at is attention to detail and breaking things down and breaking down how things work and what
Yeah.
makes things what they are. And so it's not just really good writing, like it fits so well with Harry, which
Yeah.
like one day maybe he'll write a first person perspective from a character who like generally is maybe more like poetic about the way he thinks things, and Jim will just
Right.
go hard the entire time.
Oh, that'd be
And
so
people can
sick.
be like, oh,
Oh,
this is what he can do. Like, oh
yeah.
damn. But like sometimes it works for Harry and we get this,
Yeah.
and it's just
Yeah. There was one I was reading, I forget, it was either I think it was Skin Game, and he was talking about Murphy like taking his hand, and he went on a big monologue about like there is something in the simple pleasure of holding someone's hand. When we're young, it's the first thing that we enjoy is like touching our mother's hand and like going like through this whole thing. I'm
you
like,
posted on
God,
Twitter,
this is
yeah.
fucking beautiful. Like, yeah, I did. I
Mhm.
did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, God, this is a gorgeous paragraph.
Epi.
So anyway, I don't mean to harp on that for so long, but I'm just saying every now and then Jim Butcher just pulls out something amazing that completely shocks me. Like it's so good.
Mhm.
So then we get the battle in the Never Never. What do you guys think of this?
Oh,
He
with Evil Bob and
yeah, he
the World
take
War II
The
vibes.
left welcome.
yeah, he has Molly open him a way to the Never Never, and they go inside to try to get to the other side because he can't go through the threshold, but for some reason he can walk on holy ground. Just saying. Um
I mean, that was a big hint that he wasn't actually gone
yeah, but then
because ghosts can't walk on holy ground.
but he should be able to walk through a threshold then as well.
Hmm.
I mean, Harry has struggles walking through thresholds anyways, though, like when he's alive. So his he has to leave a bunch of like, I guess, his power, which I think is kind of like maybe
All he
also
is
his
at this
soul at the
point.
door when he walks through a threshold, even when he's
Right.
alive. And
Yeah.
that's all he is now. So I think it would still run into problems. Also, once I was doing Dresden Files quizzes,
Mhm.
and I had a trick
course you
question
were.
for every quiz.
Yeah.
And my favorite trick question I ever got was, how long was Harry a ghost? And it was like 0 to 6 months, like 6 to 9 months, 9 months to 12 months. And the answer was 0 to 6 months because he was never a ghost the entire time. Or it was like 0 to
Oh.
3 months, 3 to
Mhm.
6 months. And people are like, oh, 3 to 6 months. Like, that's the answer. But it's like, no, 0 days. He was never a ghost at all. Oh,
That's a
Mhm.
bullshit
was-
question.
Yeah.
yes, there was one bullshit question for every quiz. And
That's great.
that was my favorite one. So
That's
no one
awesome.
got it. Everyone got the same wrong answer. Oh, it's beautiful when I could make people all get the same wrong answer. Ah.
That's so great. Okay, so what do we think about this big battle? The part that I loved was Harry just losing his mind when he saw how violent the kids were, and they would like go into someone's nostril and then pull their stomach through their mouth. And
Mhm.
Harry's just like cackling like out of insanity, like, "Oh
Mhm.
my god, that was crazy." Like, I just love all these moments of just
There
like,
were several moments where, like, from an outside observer with zero context, it would make Harry look like he was mad.
oh yeah,
I mean,
for
Like,
sure.
this
absolutely
context, do we
bonkers.
not think Harry is a little bonkers?
I mean, we do, but at least we have the benefit of having him explain himself.
I
Right,
guess.
right.
Um,
I love that Harry says after the whole nostril thing, he's like, and things got considerably less cheerful and humane from there. Like, what
I was
else
kind of
is there?
so. I mean, this kind of sounds because I've been like, I'm kind of like, yeah, it's cool, but it's not like this cool. This is not what makes me like Ghost Story. And I think like, I feel like it's a Dresden book, so it has to have a battle at the end. And it
Yeah.
was like kind of cool.
Oh yeah.
But I kind of forget about it every time, and then I get reminded of it. I'm like, oh yeah, that happened. Compared to
Same.
like a lot of the book where I don't have to be reminded of it. So I'm just kind of like, yeah, it had some cool stuff on there, but I don't have much to add about it.
The ending is kind of cool. When Bob and then there's evil Bob and Harry's kind of cornered by evil Bob, I think.
Uh-huh.
And Bob's
Mhm.
like, "No, I'll hold the portal. Go, go, go." Harry's like, "Oh my God, thank you, Bob." And he gets out, and then Bob shows up. He's like, "No, I made that portal. It was rigged from the start. I wasn't
Yeah.
gonna die in there."
Mhm.
Like that sounds like Bob.
Yeah,
Sounds like Bob.
for real. So yeah, so then from there, wait, he doesn't kill Evil Bob though, right? Evil Bob is still out there in the Never Never.
Yeah,
I
I don't think that we ever like finished that battle.
okay.
Okay. Yeah, I thought so too. Um, so then we get Harry and the Corpse Taker squaring off, and we actually get to see the real Corpse Taker. I thought that was kind of cool because
Mhm.
in every other circumstance, she's been in some other body, so we get to see the actual body of the Corpse Taker. And I liked that. I liked that Butcher had them square off in a fair fight rather than like what happened in Deadbeat, because Harry has been carrying around all of this guilt for doing this in such an unfair way, just like walking up to somebody and coldly shooting them in the back of the head. And so this was kind of like his moment, it seemed like, to actually square off against Corpse Taker and have this moment of like head to head battle. I thought that was kind of cool.
Mhm.
I agree.
What about anything else from here to like the fight in the Mindscape? We'll talk about that specifically, but anything like anything through here.
Yeah, the next big thing that I can think about is the mines.
Yeah. I liked Sir Stewart saying, "I set boot to ass, boy."
Yes.
Like I
Yeah.
was like, what the
That's a
fuck?
great line.
Yeah.
That's a good line.
And then we get Corpse Taker eating the Lecter Specters. Does this was a moment where I was like, so after Corpse Taker is like, she like shatters her own ritual item or whatever. Harry like this, I didn't quite understand the series of events. He like bailed and went up to Murphy, and I'm like, did he just leave the room he was in with the corpse taker? Like, did he just leave her there to do whatever? I'm like, why would he do that? And
I
then
don't remember.
he's like talking to Murphy and stuff, and then he comes back and she's like got a skewer of these ghosts, and she's like, just like eating them. It's like, dude, what did you think was gonna happen? Of course she was gonna kill everybody. She's like a boss level enemy, and you left her with all of the ghosts.
Mhm.
Like, what? So yeah, I don't know that whole thing. We didn't get the ghosts back, did we? Like, we didn't. They didn't find a way to revive them. Like, they're all dead,
I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't think so.
right?
And also, I don't know because Corpse Taker took over Butters, right? Before.
She ended
that
up doing that later, yeah.
Oh, okay, my bad. My
After
bad. My
after
bad.
eating them, yeah.
Gotcha.
Because she ate all these spirits, and then she had
And
enough
then
power
got strong
to,
enough. Yeah,
yeah.
I got
Mhm.
you. I got you.
yeah.
Yeah,
So anyway,
it was kind of funny when Mortimer was like, Harry, you idiot. I was trying to keep
Yeah.
everybody away from here because I knew she was
Yeah.
gonna do this.
Yes.
right.
Yes.
He's like, what did you think was gonna happen?
Yep. Yep.
And then funny enough, like 2 minutes after the I set boot to ass boy, we get another boot to the head reference, pre-battleground. So it's funny to see, like, I don't know, it's not technically 3, but we at least have 2 in the series, boot to the head references. Harry says, I gave him a boot to the head. I literally kicked him in the head with my hiking boot. I'm like, that's funny. We see that come up later on.
Yep.
So
Nah, nah, nah.
nah. Um, and then let's see. Oh, this was interesting. Harry mentions that he has his leather duster, but he doesn't have his amulet.
Hmm.
Does anybody? Is there?
I don't know why.
Because I
Yeah, I
can't.
remember that kind of being like I don't know how that worked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I couldn't remember if this comes up later. If there's a reason for it later.
I don't.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I don't know why he wouldn't have the amulet as a ghost, but he would have his duster.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not sure.
that's one thing to write down to ask Jim when he eventually comes on, hopefully.
Yeah,
Mhm.
hopefully.
Yeah.
He's gonna say, "I'm not gonna tell you. I'm not gonna tell you. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna tell you."
but I
Probably.
feel like I
In a
feel,
more sing-song voice.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm not gonna tell you.
Tell you, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna tell you.
But I feel like it feels like something that's not going to get explained later. Like, it feels like it's something that
It might
we
not,
should
man.
be able to figure out.
Might
And I'm
not. You
like,
might be just be stuck ever wondering about the amulet for
oh
the rest of your
God.
days.
I think it's
Man.
gonna be
You,
explained.
you think it's going to come up? Okay.
I think like that it's a specific enough detail.
Yeah.
where I'm like, that's there for a reason. That
Yeah.
was like Jim was like, this is a surprise tool that will come in handy later.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, so let's talk about the War of the Minds, because I thought this was really cool. Harry gets in there and we see this big battle taking place, and basically Harry explains that Molly and him had been doing this for a while now, and they had been playing these mental games against each other, and their final like killing blow was a picture
Star
of
Wars,
Vader
yeah.
coming up being like, I have you now.
Mhm.
And that was kind of saying, like, I got all the way through your defenses and I was able to get this picture through.
Yeah.
And so I really like that. I kind of wondered why in this big battle, why was, if it's just like imagination, why was Molly not able to be like 50,000 nuclear bombs like everywhere?
I think you have to like conceptualize
Yeah,
everything individually.
I
so it's
agree.
like
It's
how's
like
that
a level
nuclear?
of
Like I can conceptualize how a sword works, like a dude with a sword. There's a dude,
Yep.
he can stab someone. Tell me how that nuclear bomb you just had explode was working.
yeah. And
Yeah.
Conceptualize it.
You might know how it
Picture
works, but imagine imagine conceptualizing 150 at one time at the same time. I feel like it's just a level of like mind, power that is probably
Right.
really
Yeah,
difficult.
you can't
to
just like be like there's 50,000 nukes. You have to conceptualize each of the
each
50,000
part
nukes
of it, each
and hold them in
single-
your mind, I think.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
But still, I mean, it's like thinking along as the lines of what we just said. It's still the Mindscape the whole battle is pretty fucking impressive. Molly is
Yeah.
something else, man.
She
Right.
is
got
at mental stuff. She's kind of built different.
Yeah,
Mhm.
she's built different. Exactly.
Unfortunately,
Mhm.
Corpse Taker was even more built different, which was a
Yep.
bit.
Yep. Well, that's Corptex, that's her thing. That's always been
Yeah,
her
there. I
thing.
guess there's
Whatever.
levels to this,
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
just not in the same weight class for that. It's like that's what Corpse Taker does. Like
Yeah,
Molly's
and that's
good
what
at
she's
it.
always done a
Mhm.
lot longer than Molly's been,
Yeah.
a magician or
Yeah.
wizard, warlock, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. He goes into the tree house and he proves who he is. He's like, I knew you when you were like 8 or whatever. And she lets him in. And she's
Mhm.
got this cabinet. And I remember when I read this for the first time, I was like, what's the cabinet? Like I was immediately intrigued.
Yeah.
Like what could possibly, because Harry was so interested in it. I'm like, it's like the movie Seven, like, what's in the box?
Yeah.
What's in the box? It's like, what's in the cabinet? And I love this kind of not like super slow build up, but like this scene where it's like there's obviously something that is drawing Harry's attention that he wants to know
Not
about. And
only Harry's, but Molly's attention.
yeah, and it's just like it makes you as the reader be like, I have to know what's in that
Yeah.
thing. And then finding out, like, let's roll back the clock to the first time you read this book. What was this
Mhm.
twist like?
Oh, that's a tough question. I mean, I was surprised for sure. Like I didn't
Mhm.
know. I thought it was weird. At least I think I remember. I think it's weird now, even reading this again, how
Mm.
like just eager Molly was to tell Harry about this box, even though as a reader, like we should know about it, the Russian Molly was like, "Pooh, don't pay any attention to this box." Then the other Molly was like,
Yeah.
we should tell him what's in the box, right? Like we should tell him, you
Yeah,
know?
there was different like
Yeah.
personality traits at
Yeah,
play that were
exactly. And
like,
so it's obvious that Molly like really wanted Harry to know what was in the box, but she couldn't do it because, of course, we find out that Harry asked her not to tell him what was in the
right.
box.
But her subconscious is like
Subconscious is like,
it's like when you have to tell someone.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Also, it's Chekhov
We
Molly.
have
It's not
to tell
Russian Molly.
him.
It's
Okay, check off.
Star
Chekhov,
Trek
thank you.
characters.
Yeah,
Mhm.
thank you.
Shields are failing, Captain.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I was surprised, man. It was a surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, me neither.
There's some Dresden twists that really make sense in hindsight. That if someone ever predicts, I'm just like, you got spoiled.
Yeah.
Right.
I've
Yeah.
never seen anyone be like, wait.
I know
Did Harry
exactly
hire
what's
Molly
about
to
that.
hire? Did Harry hire Kincaid to kill himself and then get Molly to wipe his mind?
Yeah.
Right, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
there's
such
just
a
no way.
there's so
Yeah.
many layers to it where it's like you could not guess. Like even if you guess that Kincaid probably killed him, it's like
But it
you
also makes so much sense in hindsight. Like
Oh,
it
yeah.
works so well.
Yeah.
It really
Oh, yeah.
brings like the entire book.
Mhm.
It makes the book feel more cohesive on reread, which I think is
I-
one reason it's more enjoyable in reread because you're like, oh, this is what we were doing. I get
Right.
it now.
Mhm.
Instead
Yeah.
of just being like reading it and then in hindsight being like, oh, that's why. That's
Right.
why we're doing this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, the reread is what is really what pulls it all together, and especially going back and reading that scene from Changes, like in the moment, it's like, oh my god, you can see the sadness and despair on Molly's face in Changes, like after it happens. Because when we see him in Changes, it's right after he woke up from this,
Yeah.
and so, ah, man, it's so good. It's so good. Um, but yeah, that is one of the best twists in the Dresden Files. I feel like I think it's like it's the one that everybody talks about. Like, holy, it's the holy shit moment. And I think, if anything, like that's kind of the thing that ties this to the larger series. But yeah, it's such a good moment. I remember reading it for the first time and just being absolutely floored by the realization that Molly had been the one to wipe his mind like that. Do you remember how you felt, V, when you first read that?
Uh, a little heartbroken, a little bit annoyed because I'm not a Star Wars or a Star Trek person.
Yeah,
Um,
ditto.
kind of heartbroken for Molly, especially when you get into the scene where it's like what really happened at St. Mary's after Harry fell and broke his back.
Yeah.
And I felt really, really bad for Molly, and that's sort of what sticks out in my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on reread, it's like it's crazy what he's asking her to do. Like what he's asking her to do is not fair in any way, shape, or form. And she does it. I wouldn't say like without complaint, but she knows what she has to do and she does it. So,
Mhm.
and then he says, so in the flashback, he says, "You're one hell of a woman, Molly," which is what he said at the beginning of this book. And on this reread, I was like, what is that referencing? Because she had like a visible reaction when he said that. And I
I
was
think it was him acknowledging that she's an adult and not a kid anymore.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And well, yeah, it's that, but it's also like Harry doesn't remember that he says that. So in Ghost Story, when he in at the beginning when he says it again, she's like, "Whoa, like
Yeah.
this is taking me back to all of this trauma that I experienced." Um, and then what in the flashback we find out that it's something that he said during this whole thing. And
Mhm.
so I thought that was kind of a cool full circle moment. Um, so then from this, we basically leave the battle. Like we basically leave the battle entirely, and we go into like this white light area with Uriel. Do you guys have any thoughts on this whole scene?
I like Uriel. I like
Mhm.
the part where he gets mad when Harry calls him Yuri, but then is okay
Yes.
with Mr.
Yeah,
Sunshine.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
dude.
That
Yeah,
was awesome.
because he was
That was like
like,
he felt the weight of worlds when he said, you do not mess around with names, Harry
yeah,
Blackstone,
And then Harry
Copperfield,
does it again,
Dresden.
but it works
Yeah.
because like
yeah,
Yeah.
because it's a completely different name.
because
Uriel
it
was
no, because
upset.
it fits, right? Like because Uriel means the light of God, and if you
Yeah.
take out the yell, it's just the light. Like that, the yell is the of God
Ooh.
part,
Oh,
which
I
is
didn't know
kind of
that.
important.
That's
And then
cool.
Harry calls him Mr. Sunshine, which is kind of the light of God.
Yeah.
From so
Right.
that's why it works. I didn't know that
Okay.
the first couple times I read it, and then I was like, so I was like, wait, why is this? Why is he okay with Mr. Sunshine? And it's like, oh no, Harry removed the of God part from Uriel's name, which
Mhm.
Okay.
that's a
Yeah.
big deal for him.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, I loved that moment because it was like it was like for a moment everything stopped and he was like, "No, you do not like fuck with my name."
Well, and
Like
he says Harry Blackstone, Copperfield, Dresden.
he
You do
says it
not.
perfectly. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. And Harry's like, he said it exactly right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh,
Also,
dude.
Harry names things all the time, so he's just
Yeah.
screwing around with names
Yeah.
like this entire time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's a reoccurring thing.
Yeah. That was a great moment. So I didn't realize throughout the story, throughout Ghost Story, that Harry hadn't thought once of Thomas, like while he was walking around as a ghost. And it was because his memory was wiped, I guess. Like, I don't know why he wouldn't remember Thomas from before what Molly did. But I did think that was interesting. I didn't realize that Thomas hadn't been on Harry's mind at all up until that point. And I was like, "Oh yeah, where the hell is Thomas?" But yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't actually have a good explanation for it, so I
Yeah.
can't be the dude with the answers this time. Sadly.
And then this was so this was kind of the other thing where I'm like, okay, I wonder if Butcher like didn't really have this planned out all the way. Um, so we find out at the end that a fallen angel had whispered into Harry's ear in the church and told him that it was all his fault and that he needed to do something drastic. And first of all, how did the fallen angel get into the church and which one was it? Um, but also it just seems like there wasn't any foreshadowing at all for this. Like outside of Ghost Story, there wasn't anything to like allude to this.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, I feel like it's just one of the reasons it worked is that it was kind of a believable train of thought for Harry. But
Mhm.
Harry very immediately, when we see him wake up and changes, is like, well, I guess I'm gonna have to, like, I guess there's just like nothing I can do.
right.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of a hard thing to foreshadow because the entire thing kind of got mind erased by Molly.
Yeah. I just wish there was more explanation. It's like Uriel, this felt like the Deus Ex Machina thing where it's like, yeah, there was a fallen angel there and he was like lying to you, like while
By the
you're
way,
laying on this
causing
bed.
problems. I don't think that's what Deus Ex Machina means, but whatever.
Yeah.
Again,
Same vein. You know what I mean though. Like
like
it's
yeah. I
like
mean, I feel like
it's
things
like, yeah,
being
we'll
problems
throw
out
a
of nowhere.
we'll throw a fallen angel in there because that's an answer for everything. Like I was like, okay, like I didn't mind this as much as some of my other problems with the book, but I was like, this better get expanded on later. Like
Mhm.
I would be like upset if it didn't get talked about later on, and or like if we didn't find out what the exact circumstances of this fallen angel were, because changes didn't even have anything to do with the Denarians. Like it didn't have anything to do with the fallen angels. So why was the fallen angel there? Like which one was it? I don't know. I was just kind of like, all right. I don't It was just a weird ick for me, I guess.
Mhm.
I don't know if outside beings coming over and trying to kill Harry needs to be foreshadowed. That happens a lot. Like I don't know.
Yeah, but
Kinda.
not usually in like this was, you know how like the Dresden Files is kind of separated into like enemies books. Like you have the Denarian books, you have the vampire books, you have like, the White Court books or whatever. It's like
The
Mhm.
this is a vampire book. Like what's a fallen angel doing? It just seemed
yeah,
like such a random
and
enemy to be there.
and you're right
Mhm.
about. I didn't really think about this too. You're right about the holy ground thing. Like how did how was holy ground so easily penetrated?
Yeah, like how is the fallen angel able to get in there? Like I
Yeah,
don't like
yeah. I
like
haven't thought about that, but that's what would poke out at me is
yeah,
that
like
fact alone.
I know they have the coins like stored in boxes somewhere in storage,
But they're
Mhm.
protected.
but
They're under. You
yeah,
know,
and
yeah.
it's
Oh,
like
I was under the because there are fallen angels that are in the coins, and there are fallen angels that like chill in hell. I
No,
thought
yeah, it's definitely a fallen angel that chills in hell.
like
It's
I thought it wasn't a coin one, and like
I don't
normally they don't interact with because like anything they do to exert the world, like the archangels can respond in
counteract.
accord.
Yeah.
So
okay,
I don't know if it's I just
I
I
so I
no,
assumed
looked
it
at
was
I
one of the
small
ones from the coins.
yeah, I would agree with you, Jake. I don't think that it's one from the coin, but at the same time, like, and maybe the fact that they can be counteracted by archangels and every word they say gives them enough, oomph to just do whatever they want as long as they're counteracted or challenged.
Because because if it's not a fallen angel from the coins, then it's even worse. Because then it's
Mhm.
like
No,
it's just
it was
some
Who
bad.
is it?
Yeah,
random
it was
it's some
bad.
random
Yeah.
some random fallen angel out there that they just threw into the story for cannon fodder. Like
Mhm.
That or
ugh,
it
I
becomes
don't know.
important later on.
I mean, I feel like
We
it's
can't
probably gonna be
tell.
important later on.
Yeah,
But
yeah, it'll
Maybe.
be important later on.
Maybe.
I agree.
yeah, there
I
was
feel like you
this
don't
dude.
introduce a fallen angel nobody's ever heard of and then not use him again.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like them messing with things kind of has a premise. Like, I don't know,
Mhm.
Okay.
2 books ago, Small Favor, when Lucifer was like, "Hey, here's help making a massive pentagon circle of fire thing." Like, I don't know.
Wait,
Like,
Lucifer helped him make that?
yeah, yeah, that's why Uriel was able to give Harry Soulfire. I just had someone knock on my door again. 1 second.
Okay.
I think I heard it. Yeah.
Hopefully it's the book. Let's
Hopefully
see
it's
the
the
book.
book.
Oh, I'm back. My
What
dad's
was
here
it?
for dinner. I thought he was gonna be here later.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
4
Okay.
hours.
Okay. Should we wrap up?
I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yes, in Small Favors, the massive Pentagon thing was powered by uh old Lucifer himself. That was the
Okay.
thing.
We got to talk about like the ghost of Christmas present. Do you need to go right now, Jake, or do you have like 5 minutes?
5 minutes should be fine.
Okay. So we get Uriel basically taking him around to all of his friends because Harry is like, okay, I'll move on, but I need to know that my friends are
Yeah.
okay. And
Friends and
dude,
family.
man, this is the part of the book that I love. I love this part of the book. Do you have like a favorite one that they go visit?
Probably the Mortar one we already talked about, if I'm being completely honest.
The what?
The one where they show Mortimer being like going all ectomancer. But,
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's a great one.
or like there's the Mighty
Thomas.
and Mouse one, right? Thomas
Yeah.
one's funny.
Yeah.
Tom, yeah, he's got like a harem now.
And yeah, he's finally doing the right thing that he needs to do. And then of course Maggie too is probably the most plot important one.
Yeah, he goes and sees Maggie and sees that she's at the Carpenters now. It's
And Mouse
crazy
is
to
with
think
her,
that
yeah.
this is when we find out that she's at the Carpenters.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I had totally forgotten when we knew about that, but
And that
that
was
was
super
cool.
touching. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, here's a couple that you trust with your life, and there's 4 angels that are looking out for her, like,
And
and
Bet
Mouse.
yeah, Mouse, exactly.
Yeah, that's like
Yeah.
the best
Temple
scenario
dog.
that Harry could have hoped for
Yep.
for her.
Yeah. And then we get a little scene with Mouse where Uriel, like Harry's actually able to interact with Mouse, which I thought was super cool.
And then Uriel says, "All right, little brother, we'll be, something along those lines where you're like, okay,
yeah. He calls him little brother, which is really interesting. A lot of people have speculated on this, like, okay, so is Mouse being a temple dog, is he somehow related to angels in some way?
Also, Nicodemus was afraid of him, which is also
Right.
probably
yeah, Mouse is
Right.
like a very, very powerful entity. I would think.
Yeah. And something that I've literally never caught ever in my rereads of this book was that Uriel mentions that Mouse will be able to protect Maggie for at least the
Yep.
duration of a wizard's lifetime.
Yeah,
Conf-
500 years, baby.
Dude, and that
Yep.
is like such a big confirmation that Mouse is something crazy. Like,
Oh, hands
I
he's
mean,
a
down.
foo dog, reverse
Yeah, he's
dog.
a foo dog.
Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly.
we know that, but like, what are the limits of a foo dog, right? Like, we don't know the specifics.
Tell you what, they're endless.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I was like, man, that
Mhm.
is so cool that he's
Yeah,
got
no,
an
that's awesome.
extended lifespan. And then and there was a quote that I really liked from earlier after they saw Molly, where Uriel says, "I believe you had said something about letting the world burn and you and the kid roasting marshmallows. It's one thing to say let the world burn and another thing to say let Molly burn. The difference is the name." And it's like, man, this goes back to our like train track analogy where it's like Molly's on the track now. She's one
Yeah.
of the 5. Like what, oh man, that was such like a hard-hitting moment. But then we get to the very end, and you want to talk about this ending? Anybody got anything for this ending here?
It's really cool, and one day we'll figure out if the lies Mab cannot change who you are is actually really important, and Uriel being like, "Hey, Mab can lie," or if that's just like Mab is wrong, and it was just like what it means. But
Wait, did Uriel say that Mab can lie?
well, the
No.
words Uriel says is lies. Mab cannot change who you are, so it's kind of like in response
Oh,
to
I
Mab
see.
something saying is like Mab is lying.
Yeah.
But I think it could be just that the implication is just like Mab is wrong.
Right.
And
right.
it's like lies compared to the universe.
Right,
But
right,
some
right.
people have interpreted it as, oh, this is Uriel saying Mab can lie. But I'm not on that camp.
I don't think so either.
I think it's
Yeah.
symbolic.
Yeah, but also with the argument that Dresden had with Mab, after he came to, he was basically like, you can try to change me into being a thug for you, but then you're not going to get what you want. And
Yeah.
that's why you went through all this trouble to keep me around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, you tell me to do something, I will do it to the T and nothing else.
Right. Yeah.
Working
and
a
no
rule.
effort.
Which also
yeah.
sounds very Fey. Like,
yeah.
you have a contract. I will do the
Right.
contract. I
Yep.
will not do any more.
Yep.
But he also tells her, like, I will do this my way. Like, I
Yeah,
will
that's
do what
true.
you tell
Yeah.
me, but I will do it my way. And I think the best example of this is in Skin Game. No spoilers, but I'm just saying, for those that have read Skin Game, like, this is what he does at the beginning of that book. So, anyways, final thoughts. Again, I was kind of about it, but I am so excited to go on to Cold Days. Cold Days is one of my top 3 favorite books of the series. I could not be more psyched to go on to Cold Days. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably have to say my rank and then go. But
Yeah.
of the ones we'd read so far, so just for like the first 13, Changes would be 1, and then Current Turncoat in Small Favor, and then Deadbeat, and then Ghost Story. It's 5 for where we are so far.
Wait, you put it at, well, Deadbeat is 5, so you would put it in place of White Knight and move all that down?
Sorry. So for my rank of the ones that gone so far would be Changes, Turncoat, Small Favor, Deadbeat, Ghost Story of the first 13.
Yeah. That's probably where I would
On
put
my
mine
personal
too,
rank, not
man.
looking at the ranking you have, you guys can take with that what you want.
Okay, got it. Okay. All right. Well, we will argue out our things, and we'll make sure to keep your perspective in mind. Dude, thank you so much for joining us. And again, big congratulations on the Jim Butcher interview. We're gonna link it down in the description, so anybody who's watching this, go check that out. I'm super excited to watch it. But Jake, thank you so much for hanging out.
Thank you for having me. Have a good day, everyone.
Yep.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Okay, so if you got the notes opened up, so far our rankings are 1 changes, 2 proven guilty, 3 turncoat, 4 small favor, 5 deadbeat, 6 white knight, 7 death masks, 8 blood rights, 9 summer night, 10 full moon, 11 grave peril, and 12 stormfront. So Jake's vote is for this to be number 5 and to push, or I guess number 6. The way, because he wasn't looking at our list, so the way I interpreted it is he saw Deadbeat as above this one. So technically, he would put Ghost Story at number 6 in between White Knight and Deadbeat.
That's exactly where I would put it as well.
Okay, so we have 2 for that.
I think so. Deadbeat is one of my favorites. I definitely wouldn't put Ghost Story above Deadbeat.
Yeah.
I'd probably put it like,
Well,
would you put it above White Knight?
yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
then.
shit.
All right, that's in the same spot we're saying.
Sweet.
Okay.
Yeah. Spencer, you're screwed, bro. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm voted out. So
All right.
fucking somehow we have Ghost Story at number 6.
Oh, that's so funny.
I don't know how it happened. I should have gotten other people on the podcast today.
Yeah, that was it's all your fault, man. You
Sorry.
screwed yourself.
No.
No, we're
You're good,
just
no.
kidding.
Just
Sorry,
kidding.
Polka will never die.
The Poke will never die.
So yeah, that's our rankings for now. We'll see what
You should say that's theirs. Mine's a little different.
Wait, what?
He's
No, I
accepting
just-
these rankings under
Yeah.
duress.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You should say I'm accepting these rankings because everybody else voted me out, but that's where it sits.
Yeah, I mean that's like, you know,
No, I'm just
everybody
messing with you. Yeah.
everybody who comes on gets a vote, and we treat them just like a co-host when they're on here, so they get just as much of a vote as we do. So it's been cool to put together this list with the community and
Yeah.
be like, yeah, this isn't necessarily the order that I would put them in. Maybe when we finish the series, I'll put out a video saying this is how I would rank the Dresden Files or whatever. But it's been cool to like hang out with our friends and be like, I don't know, let's all come to like a general conclusion of where we would rank the books. I think that's been really, really fun.
Yep.
Definitely.
So any final thoughts on Ghost Story before we hit our outro?
Other than I'm just happy to be reading the Dresden Files again.
Yeah,
Been
me too.
It's been a while, man. I feel like it's been a while, and
And-
we should stay on the train.
I know. I feel like we should do Cold Days pretty soon.
Yeah, yeah.
We have a Harry Potter episode coming up in late March, but other than that, I think we should jump back into Dresden Files, because I've been reading it in my off time. Like
Yeah.
like when I just don't have anything to read, I'll put on, like I listened to like Skin Game recently,
Mhm.
and I listened to Proven Guilty, and I'm just like, God, I love these books so much. I go so many months like reading epic fantasy or grimdark or whatever.
Mhm.
And then I come back to Dresden Files and I'm like, God, like this is why this is like my warm blanket book or series, just because it's so, I love these characters and I love the world so much. So, you know, despite my feelings on Ghost Story, I'm super happy to be reading Dresden again.
Yeah.
And I'm extremely excited for Cold Days. Like I said, it's like one of my favorites. So really looking forward to that.
So I've been kind of all over the place with my reading lately. I've kind of let Dresden go on the back burner and just read a bunch of random stuff that, while it's fun in the moment, it just doesn't stick with me the same as the Dresden Files does. And I don't know. I feel like I've spent so much time on this series, but at the same time, I always find something new. And so I'm kind of in an awkward position right now where it's like, do I go back to read the thing that I've been obsessing about over the last couple years, or do I try some other things? But I always keep coming back.
Yeah.
That's fair. I mean, I would say I'm the same way. It's always nice to like look for something brand new, you know, that you've never read and see, but it always feels like you're kind of chasing the dragon, right? Because you're like just trying to find the next thing that is, you know, to your heart, as the Dresden Files is. Well, and I should say other series too. It's not just the Dresden Files. There's a ton of series that are super awesome to us and super close. And I noticed that when I do it, like Spencer always recommends new books, and I I'll try out every book he recommends, and I'm always hoping it hits me like, of course, the books that we love do. And I think that's
Yeah.
probably the same for most readers.
Yeah.
And so therein lies the problem. Like, do you want to reread, something that hits that button, or do you want to try out something that may not, but also might?
Right.
So it's just,
I feel like it's really hard to read something that is going to be close to like our top 5. Like we have like our top 5, and then everything else is like kind of further down the mountain
yeah,
from
yeah.
those.
Well, it's just like, it's like the lottery, man. Like
Yeah.
there could be a very good chance the next new series you read is your number 1 favorite series of all time.
Yeah.
But that chance is pretty low, like winning
Yeah.
the lottery,
Right. Right.
Yeah.
That's true. By the way, Gabe, do you have any plans to read the Parker books?
I do, yeah.
Because I am so convinced that you would love them.
No, yeah, I totally have plans to read them.
Okay. I'm
Yeah.
so convinced that you would read like the first 3 and then be like, okay, I'm reading all 23 books.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they're, oh God, they're so amazing. They're so good.
Yeah, I'll read them for sure.
I've been devouring those. And yeah, it's just been fantastic. By the way, something I forgot to mention earlier is that when Harry goes into Bob's skull, Bob confirms that in some other reality, there is Spider-Man. Like Spider-Man is absolutely real in
Yep.
some other reality.
So
remember
is
that.
Dresden joining the Marvel Universe? Is that
Yep.
what the
Yeah, right.
post-real credits are going to be on this?
Yeah, or like
Yeah.
there's like a timey-wimey book that's coming up where he like hops around to like alternate realities, or like hops around to like different timelines and stuff.
Mhm.
And I'm like, maybe he runs into Spider-Man.
That'd
I
be
don't
cool.
know. I don't know how Jim Butcher would swing that with like the trademark and everything.
Swing.
But yeah, so
Yeah,
oh
swing.
dang it, I walked into that one.
You did walk right
Yeah.
into it. And V caught it
Yeah.
initially, the first one.
like a web.
Yep.
Mhm.
And God. So yeah, I just think I'm like, man, that's cool that in some other reality there's like they're like very different from each other, to the point where like Spider-Man can be real. And I'm just curious what we're gonna see in the future with him going into like other realities and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
all right. Well, if that's everybody's final thoughts, then we can roll on out of here. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. We're going to wrap it up there. And yeah, we had a great time talking about Ghost Story. Super eager to talk about Cold Days coming up, and just looking forward to hopefully finishing out. I think we should be able to finish out the rest of the Dresden Files this year.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited for that. Again, go check out V's channel. I'll have it linked in the description. Go check out Jake's channel. I'll have it linked down there with his interview with Jim Butcher. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm sure it's going to be amazing. I'm literally going to watch it right after this. So I'm super excited for that, and you should be too. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Upcoming is, I believe we have Warbreaker coming up soon for our Cosmere Into the Cosmere series of episodes. And I believe we're doing that with Bookborn. I got to check my email and find out exactly when we're doing that. But that's coming up soon. And then, of course, we have our Harry Potter series that is ongoing, going into the second book, Chamber of Secrets. So that's something to look forward to. But also, again, I don't know when this episode is coming out. I'm going to try to get it out as soon as possible. But until April 3rd, if you are a new subscriber, I'll link the video down below. Check out the giveaway. Follow the instructions there, and you could get a free ebook from one of 4 or 5 authors. I forget how many people.
Amazing
threw
indie
books into the
authors.
ring. Yeah. We got Holly Tinsley, AJ Retker, Jacob Sanex, Thomas Howard Riley, and Tim Hardy. So 5.
Yep,
5 people throwing books in. So yeah, if you're new here and you haven't subscribed, then check out that video and it'll tell you how to get a free ebook just by hitting the subscribe button. That's all you got to do. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. You can reach out to us on Twitter, Discord, and Patreon, all of which are linked in the description, or you can just leave us a comment on this video. Say hi, tell us what you love. about the Dresden Files. Honestly, tell us if you hated Ghost Story. Like, I want to know.
That's what Spencer wants to know.
Spill the tea.
Yeah,
Yep,
spill the tea.
Yep.
But yeah, guys, thank you so much for hanging out. And until next time, I think we can all take solace in the fact that somewhere out there in some other alternate universe, Spider Pig is real and he's watching out for all of us.
I didn't think that was the soundbite you were gonna cue up.
Same.
That's funny.
But hey, props on picking the right Spider-Man
That's right.
iteration.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I know. I was gonna ask him, like, have you guys seen the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie?
Yes!
Yeah.
I'm old, yes.